Hey gang, welcome to Ozone Late Night as part of my October Late Night Mega Series. I am catching up with two people I haven't talked to in quite a while. Marko, Maric, and Andy Last, both of whom you can hear over on the family of podcasts at BeyondSynth.com. Welcome to another installment of Ozone Late Night. As you can clearly tell, joining me after like 2 years. I looked. Neither of you have been on the show
in a while
since 2020, when everybody was running around the world having a lot of fun, breathing in each other's faces. It's Andy Last and Marko Maric, the co-hosts of the Power Hour over at BeyondSynth.com. Gentlemen, you're both on East Coast time, so good evening to you. And
Hello.
Hey, Joe.
100 degrees there.
Thanks for having us, mate. It has been a while.
I don't think you've ever been on at the same time, or at least if you have, it was a while ago. Yeah, I don't think so. So we were discussing coffee, which apparently only Marko and I drink on this conversation. So
I do half and half. See, because I do the French vanilla from Tim Hortons, which is a very tasty drink. I guess it's technically classified as like a cappuccino. Yeah, there is.
Oh, so it is. Yeah, no, we have French vanilla here too. It's a very popular flavor, but it's caffeinated as well. But I love French vanilla.
I mean, but there's places that do, the thing where it's like French vanilla flavored coffee, but like the French vanilla from Tim Hortons, it's basically like drinking a chocolate milk. Like it doesn't even taste like a coffee drink. Like it is like just it's sweet. I did cut it for a while. Like the last few years, I would do half and half, like half coffee, half French vanilla. And that perked me up, but lately I've just been
like weird ass heart shit for a while. Was it related to that? Is that why you cut back on it?
I
mean, that was a while ago, but
to be honest with you, I don't know. There was never a resolution on that issue. It was possibly stress related because it's I don't have it anymore, right? So there was just literally a year and a half where my heart just beat funny. To the point where like I was getting tests and shit and like no one could really get to the bottom of it, and then it just didn't happen anymore. And so the human body's a funny thing, man. Like sometimes you get some stuff and you're like, oh fuck, am I dying? And then like a few weeks later it's just gone. You're like, okay, I guess it's nothing. Like,
my co-host had to stop drinking coffee. He was having something like similar. That's why I was wondering if it was that, where he was having insomnia and weird stuff, and they were like, yeah, you got to stop drinking coffee, which was for him a lot worse than it would be for me, but he drank a lot of coffee. So now you gotta
like, it's so stupid to say, because all of the health things that everyone always says, like your whole life, it's all true, and no one wants to do it because everyone's lazy. But it's like, you get your fucking 7 to 9 hours of sleep, you drink lots of water, you keep like a regular schedule, and that like takes care of almost all the things. Like half the people, I feel like they have problems that just could be solved with like just go to bed early, but no one wants to do it.
Maybe you're not eating an apple a day though.
That's true. I should be doing that as well. I just actually we got some apples growing in the yard, but they're these
nice.
They're green, and I don't think they're ripe, and I'm scared to try because if it's going to be like really bitter and fucked up, and I don't want to do it.
Part of I know what for me is it's just the and this is going to sound like the stupidest thing, but it's true. It's like, oh, I'm not 18 anymore. I can't do this stuff anymore. It's actually was never good for me, but my system could take care of it. Now I can't because I'm not that age anymore. So that's partially it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I can't do gummy candies anymore. I still do. I eat them. We went to the candy store the other day because someone gave my wife like a $25 coupon. And so I was bringing all this candy to the counter. The guy's like, do you just want to use the whole coupon? Because I only had like $17. And I'm like, okay. So I just started fucking grabbing shit like just to fill up for the $25. I'm like, all right, I'll take this is $1. This is 50 cents. And then I had this big bag of candy, and I've been eating like Runts, and I haven't had runts in a long time, and they got actually the new Nerds. They do some fun things with Nerds now, where it's like they're the jelly candies, but they're surrounded by Nerds. They're
my favorites.
They're addictive, man. Like I can just eat them.
Shits though.
Oh yeah, they're not good. Like they're not like that's the problem, right? That's what Joe's saying. Yeah. It's like when I was a kid, I used to love them, and now I eat a fucking even like just a handful of like gummies or Nerds or whatever, and then I just have stomach cramps, and it sucks.
Well, that's why I had to stop drinking coffee in the afternoon. I started to kind of figure it out that it's the second coffee. The second coffee just wrecks everything. So as long as I stick to one, I'm fine. But if I try for two, that's it. It's over with. I might as well just, forget to do anything for the rest of the night because I'm going to be running to the bathroom going, oh, that coffee wasn't worth it, for the next 3 hours.
Think, for me, I'm sensitive to the caffeine. So even though I drink a big tea in the morning and I drink my French vanilla at night, it's not the same as coffee. Like if my dad brews one of his espressos, if I even have like a fucking sip of that, I'll probably go back into fucking like heart attack mode or whatever. So, I need a little bit of caffeine or else I get a headache. So I know that much about myself, but I'm still not on the super strong stuff right now.
Marco, your tolerance for caffeine?
I make double strength coffee. So when I make it at home, I put 2 heaped teaspoons in, and that fucking gets me going. But I never have more than 2 coffees a day. Actually, maybe 3. Okay, but never more than 3, I mean. But my body handles it. No, it's good. It flushes my system. I usually have to go to the bathroom straight after, but that's good. It flushes everything out, all my toxins, and then I'm good to go.
Hey, listen, you know what? There's something. No,
it's a purifying experience.
I get it, toxins. Man. If it works for you, it works for you. That's fine. I just know I can do one. The one coffee in the morning. This is fascinating conversation, but fuck it. What do I care? The one coffee I have in the morning, I can make that as strong as I want. I mean, I could put fucking adrenaline into it, and I will be fine. It's just if I have another one, then it's over with. But the one, because I drink Death Wish a lot, and that stuff is fantastic. And, I mean, they claim it's the most caffeinated coffee. I doubt it is. I think that's just a marketing bullshit thing. But it's strong. I mean, my wife drank it once, and she had the jitters for like 4 hours. So I was like, you don't drink this again. This is not for you. This is... Because she doesn't drink a lot of coffee like I do. But, yeah.
Remember Jolt Cola?
I love Jolt Cola back when it was around. Yeah, of course. Sure.
Did that go to Australia?
Yeah, it sure did.
Oh, that was everywhere for a while.
I think the modern Jolt isn't the same. Because I remember when it came out, their big thing was like, it's got 3 times the caffeine. And I don't think that's true now. If you were to have Jolt, I think it's only 2 times or maybe even the same. I should look that up, actually.
Well,
it's still around?
I think so.
I think it is, but it's very limited. You can't find it like you used to be able to. Some of that stuff I think is probably just because they figured out that what was in it was probably very unhealthy, and they decided they didn't want to have a lawsuit. It's kind of like how they changed McDonald's fries. They got rid of the stuff that's utterly terrible for your heart, and that's why it tastes like. I mean, they're still good, but they're not good like they used to be, because now they're not using, liquid bovine fat that was just harvested out of wherever. They're putting it in like peanut oil now or something, so it's not the same. Jesus. Yeah, that's what happens. They find out the stuff is awful for you. It's like, what do you call it? Corn syrup isn't everything,
I'm looking this up. Well, ChatGPT just said the slogan was all the sugar, twice the caffeine. I always thought it was 3 times. Unless fucking ChatGPT is lying to me.
How could that ever happen? Hold on. I don't trust those fucking things for anything, man. They're fine, but I don't trust them telling me anything accurate. Oh, it's from Rochester, New York. That explains why it was the way that it was. Let's see. It was originally... I'm looking on Wikipedia, which I trust more than ChatGPT, but I probably shouldn't. In Australia, it was usually. Bottled Jolt. Okay. Lime Jolt? Yeah. Oh, God. I wouldn't drink that. It doesn't...
You know what? I'll say this. When I go to Wendy's, they have the fucking fountain pop that you serve yourself, and... They've got the computerized one now where you can like pick the different flavors, and it'll like, so if you choose Coke, then it gives you a list of like, do you want lime Coke, cherry Coke, and there's like a whole list of flavors at the bottom that you can choose from. And the lime Coke's pretty good. That's what I get pretty much all the time now from the fountain.
I don't think I've ever had lime. Sprite is the only lime cola I think I've ever had, or probably some off-brand thing. I don't think I've ever had a lot of lime cola.
You ever had a pop, though, with a lemon in it?
Well, I don't know what pop is because I speak English. I've had soda.
Wow.
Yeah, no, the only flavors I've really had of soda, because I know there's a ton of them, is the only one I shouldn't say I've had almost probably every flavor like everybody has as a kid. You just drink anything. But the ones I always liked were the cherry type. Cherry Cola, cherry Pepsi. Even cherry 7-Up. I used to love the old cherry 7-Up. I haven't had it, so I don't know if they changed that. But cherry 7-Up was fucking great.
Yeah.
That's the kind of stuff I like.
Well, you can get the cherry Coke, too. That's all. What I'm saying is the machine gives you anything you want.
No, that's great. I'm all for, I know people who would do the whole a little bit of everything in the cup and would claim that it was the best thing they ever had. I tried it once and thought it was what I would imagine drinking shit would be, but that's fine.
This tastes like Mountain Dew.
Mountain shit.
You know what? I got to tell you, I got a small soft spot for Mountain Dew because I always used to go and get Pizza Hut with Mountain Dew, and their fucking French dressing was the best French dressing on that awful salad bar that was probably half chemicals, but I loved going to Pizza Hut when I was younger, and I'd always have Mountain Dew with it.
Yeah. I disagree.
I mean, I know it's not. Not good. I'm not saying it's good, right? Okay. I understand that it's bad.
I love Mountain Dew. You got to understand, in Australia we have the one flavour, and it ain't very popular. And I always liked just the regular Mountain Dew. And the only place you could get it from that actually served it was, well, I mean, you could get it in certain stores, but KFC, it was like their thing. They had Pepsi product and fucking Mountain Dew, so I used to always get it. Then I come to America, and you guys have got like fucking 300 flavors. I was like, man, this is amazing, and I love them all, and they're so popular over here. I mean, I know it's not good for you, whatever, I don't give a shit, but it tastes bloody great,
Didn't you?
Well, I'm not one to criticize because I still like Pepsi Clear, and everybody else hates it, so I'm the asshole in the whole group here.
I mean, I'll go Baja Blast any bloody day,
Speaking of Australia.
Yeah, go on.
Since I know you guys are now into B movies and you've been watching B movies, which I'm thrilled about because I love B movies quite a bit.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, what was the name of this movie? Because I guess it was a big Australian film that I had never seen. Stacey Keach is in it.
Razorback?
No. Well, Razorback's great. No, I love Razorback, but no, I watched this one more recently. It was. He's playing a truck driver. He's in Australia, and he's chasing down...
Oh, yes.
Yeah, what the hell's that movie called?
I saw that recently.
Me too.
Oh, fuck.
Man.
It's first time I was like, how have I not seen this before?
That's what I said. It's from like 1990 or something like that. Hold on, I'm looking it up. I'm in the 70s, 80s.
Yeah, I'm looking. No, it's like it's early 80s, actually. And it's
is it? Okay,
fucking...
so then... where the fuck is... Road Games. Road Games. That's it. It's Road Games.
Yeah, that was amazing. Yeah, that was so good.
Yeah, that was a...
It's funny because I love that movie especially. Like, I can't believe I didn't know about it because I've driven across the Nullarbor, which most of that is filmed. It's just long stretch of road on the southern part of Australia, and there's nothing. It's so barren and desolate. And I've done that drive a number of times. We drove around Australia when I was younger. So it just automatically brought back memories, and I was just like, oh my God, this is amazing. It's Stacey Keach, like, what the fuck? And it had Jamie Lee Curtis, too.
Yeah, Yeah.
Pretty amazing casts. And it ends up in Perth. My hometown is where they end up. So it was just like, man, how do I not know about this movie? So, yeah, I really enjoyed watching that.
I'm assuming you have not seen it, Andy.
No, I don't know what this is. Do they play Australians in it?
No, he is an American. He's just he's a truck driver in Australia.
I believe.
Yeah, he's an American truck driver during some kind of truck strike. So all the Australians hate him. They all want to kill him because he's driving during a strike that I think Australians are taking part in, but because he's an American, he's not part of it. And he starts to believe that he's found a serial killer, and you can't tell for a while whether he's just nuts and imagining it or if it's really a serial killer. And so most of it's a slasher version in a lot of ways of Fury Road, where it's mostly just him driving and seeing this van that just appears and disappears. And he's got a dingo, which I guess were being shot a lot in Australia then because they were a menace. Cute. Yeah, it's a sweet little animal, but I guess was that a thing that you remember, Marko, that you were just shooting dingoes?
Dingoes were never really a menace. No, we had other things that were menaces, but like emus. But no, it was never a menace.
Okay, because in the movie they make it like, having a dingo is illegal, so they keep trying to kill it, and he keeps trying to protect it. That's a fun movie.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a simple, fun movie. Keach is awesome if you like him.
Was it Keach Down Under? What's this thing called? I missed the title.
It's called Road Games from 19...
Road Games.
Yeah.
I'm going to call it...
Check it out. He's great. What were you going to call it?
I was going to call it Keech Down Under. That's all.
Keech Down
This
Under?
sounds like, isn't it? What's Quigley in Quigley Down Under? He doesn't play an Australian either, right? Like he's an American abroad.
I've never seen that movie. Is that Quigley Down? Is that
Under? What?
No,
Quigley Down Under
know
with
the, no, I
fucking,
know the movie. Isn't it Magnum?
Magnum PI.
Yeah. I've never seen it, but I know it because
Okay.
my mother loves Magnum. So I've seen. His shit has
seen
been on in the
Magnum.
background my entire child life. I saw goddamn Tom Selleck everywhere. So
It's always been one of those titles that's so stupid, but I've never actually seen the movie, and I always just knew it as a reference of just like Quigley Down Under because it sounds so dumb. And I think I only watched the trailer for the first time like a year ago or something. Just was like what is Quigley Down Under? Like, you know, when you just hear things your whole life and you're like, what the
Yeah.
fuck is that?
yeah, it's like a kid's film. It sounds like a child's film, like a
Yeah,
comedy or something. Kind of
I
the
think
reverse
it is. I
Crocodile
think it's meant to
Dundee.
be silly. Like it's there's sort of like a reverse Crocodile Dundee where it's like it's an American who goes to Australia.
Marko, is Crocodile Dundee a authentic representation of Australians?
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
Yeah. Do you all walk
I
around with
like it.
giant
It's actually
knives?
good because Americans like Australians and they think we're all rugged and we're all crocodile hunters and all this shit. So him and like the crocodile hunter, I'm I'm very grateful that they've given us a very good image. It's not accurate at all, but it's great.
It's not all big knives and giant beers and dust. That's kind of what I get out of the American depiction of an Australian is, oh yeah, there's no
Yeah.
vegetation, the beer cans are bigger than your children, and they all carry giant knives.
Honestly, the vegetation shit is pretty accurate. I mean, if you go anywhere away from the coast, it's pretty much like that. But nobody lives out there. It's just fucking barren shit. So, everybody lives on the coast. But no, that is kind of accurate if you go inboard, But the Foster's beer, no, nobody drinks that shit in Australia. That's fucking terrible.
Really?
It's
Oh,
actually
that's
one of
funny.
our biggest exports. Yeah, it's one of our biggest exports. The Brits love that shit. I can't understand why. In fact, if you go to a liquor store, it's pretty hard to get Foster's. A lot of places don't even sell it. It's just, nobody drinks that shit. I don't know anybody that drinks that stuff. Disgusting.
So, you already mentioned
Same with
Razorback.
Vegemite.
Razorback's a great Australian film. I'm going to give you one that I'm going to be surprised if either of you have watched, but I would say watch it. It's
Okay.
arty and weird, but it's called Spirits of the Air, Gremlins of the Clouds from 1989. Have either of you seen this thing? I guarantee you haven't.
What the fuck?
Okay, you have.
From the, I'm
I know, I
Googling
knew it.
now.
I knew it. But it's
Where
an
do you come up
Australian
with this
set.
shit, Joe?
Yeah, no, I got all kinds of weird shit.
Gremlins of the Clouds.
The guy who did Dark City, this was either his first or second movie. And it's strange. It's arty and atmospheric and weird, but it's very much the kind of Australian outback setting where it's two siblings out in the middle of nowhere and some weird guy shows up. It's like three people in the whole movie. And he shows up and the sister is all wackadoo art type person where she's painting her face and shit. And, they want to build a plane or something to get away because it's the post-apocalypse. Somehow, it's a weird movie, but watch it. I would actually be curious what
No,
the two of you
thanks
would
for the
think.
heads up. I'm bookmarking that right now because
Yeah.
I've never even heard of it. I'm going to check that one out.
Oh,
Thank
yeah.
you.
Now, B-movie stuff, I could go on forever because I've gotten into the
Yeah,
weeds on
Andy
that
don't
so
really
far.
like him. They got to be something special about him, or he's just like, eh. But I do like him. There's a certain something, especially if you get high enough, they're just incredible. It all makes sense.
No, I understand that. I mean, it's not B-movie stuff isn't for everybody unless it's like B-movie stuff that is a little bit better than what it's supposed to be. Because a lot of people look at it
Well,
like, okay,
unless it's
shitty.
got tits and that, then Andy likes it. If it doesn't, then he don't like it.
You know what? I'm gonna give you guys a heads up because I know you're working your way through the what the hell's that guy? The Hard Ticket to Hawaii guys.
Oh,
What's his
those
name?
ones.
I don't know
Okay.
that we're gonna continue with the Andy Sedaris.
Yeah, I think we might be done.
I was gonna say the boobs don't even save those. They get really bad after Savage Beach. That's where I would just stop. Savage Beach is the last one I would watch. I wouldn't go any further because then it
What,
just
there isn't
becomes-
much boobs, or the boobs just get worse?
Well, the boobs just aren't enough to save the movie. It just becomes too boring.
damn it.
I mean, you can skip to those if you want, but the earlier movies are fun. So it's nudity with fun. I like nudity with fun. I don't just nudity itself. That's the internet. I'm fine with
No.
that if I need that. You know what I mean? I'm not going to sit there for 90 minutes
Yeah.
bored outside of 7 minutes of what are likely horrible boob jobs anyway in many cases when you get to later films. So it's like, okay, I can skip that.
Yeah.
The
Yeah, I
early
saw
ones,
a few. I skipped through some of the '90s ones, and yeah, like it just is porn. And
Yeah.
like I've always said this, and it feels weird to say, but I think just because of the internet now and the fact that porn is everywhere, I literally don't see the purpose of nudity in movies anymore. Like, it's never my favorite part. Like, every single movie I like that has nudity, I can't even think of an example where I would be like, where the movie is better because the nudity is in there, unless it's like a comedy and like it's a funny moment. But like action movies, I don't know, like unless it's super brief, like Commando, that is funny when him and Bill Duke like smash through to the other motel like next
sex.
door.
Yeah.
Just because that guy looks so goofy with his curly hair, and the woman he's with just has the biggest boobs, like, and it's just like, but it's so quick.
Awesome.
It's so quick, it's funny, and it's like, oh, that's that's startling. But I've never enjoyed like a movie sex scene. Like, I always just find them uncomfortable and awkward, and I don't know why they're there. And it was because when you watch movies in like the 80s and 90s about the internet, like that was one of the things, right? It would be like exciting, be like, oh, you get to see Sharon Stone's tits in this one. But like now that's just nothing. It's not a big deal. So I feel like it whenever I see, yeah.
How big a deal was that beaver scene though with Sharon? That was like the biggest thing ever, right? That was
Well, that's
nuts.
because you didn't usually get in the United States. You didn't get below the belt nudity. You didn't get full frontal in the United States very often. So that, and especially for an actress of that level, that was stuff that was.
But Andy's
to
right
porn.
though. You don't hear about that anymore. It's not a big deal. Like, it was just such a big deal. Like, everybody was talking about it. I mean, it was huge. And then now, like, do you ever even hear about it? Like, in a scene?
Well, now,
and I think he's right because of the internet and everything. It don't even.
Well, also, I think there's a equal opportunity thing happening now as well, where it's like, if you're gonna have nudity, then you have to also have an equal or more amount of male nudity as well, to sort of even it out, because there is still this charm when I go back and watch 80s and 90s action movies I haven't seen before, because it's always like it's almost quaint now to be like, hey, look, a naked lady. But now when you watch any of these adult shows that have nudity, it's like they make a point to be like, and here's a dick, and here's a guy's ass, and here's a dick. Like, they just have to keep on like going, like, if they're gonna show boobs, you got to see a dink as well. And like, for my personal tastes, I would just be like, how about none? You know what I mean? Like, if I want to see nudity, like, I got websites for that. Because, I don't know, like, I started thinking about, like, Game of Thrones, and, like, I don't think that show would be worse if the nudity was trimmed. Like, because that's not what I was there for. Like, I was there for just the complex plot or whatever, and, like, the nudity was just sort of like, well, it's HBO, so they got to show some titties, and, like, I'm not offended by it. It's just... there's just boobs. And if I'm watching the show with my dad and we got to be sitting there, like, seeing some tits or whatever, and it's like, look at those, you know, like, I don't know what to say, you know.
Hey, Dad, nice knockers, huh? Elbow.
Well, I mean,
yeah.
like,
no, but I agree. I mean, I know what you mean, and I think it is two things. One is that, like Marko said, it used to be that movies were where you saw nudity because it was either that or if your dad had a penthouse that you found. That's how you would see nudity. There was no internet to show that to you. Or even when the internet was around at first, it was 4 hours to find out it was a pixelated joke image where they stuck the woman's head onto, I don't know, Sean Connery's body in, what was it, Xanadu or whatever. What movie was he in where he was in that weird... what the hell movie am I thinking of where he's in that weird red thing with the...
Zardoz.
Zardoz. That's not Xanadu. Zardoz.
That's it.
Yeah, that's what it'd be a joke image. Or, you know, honestly, I remember early bulletin boards were all TNG porn. Awful TNG porn where it was like Picard fucking Troy. And for whatever reason, that was what everybody spent their time photoshopping, an awful pixelation. I don't understand it, but that's what it was. So I think it's that. And it's, like you said, it doesn't seem like it's really there for any purpose outside of, I guess they just think that's a way to get viewers, but it's not really anymore. It was at one time. It's not now.
It's all these, I think it's just like these sort of cliches of Hollywood. When cliches isn't the right word, but it was sort of, if you're making a movie like this, you have to have these things. Like, there's almost like a checklist. It's the same with R-rated comedies. Like, if you're making an R-rated comedy, there has to be a gross scene, which was something I've never understood. Like, I've never gotten why is it that every R-rated comedy, it's all, you know, you have all these raunchy jokes and stuff, and there's got to be a scene with shit. Like, where someone slips and shit, or someone gets shit on, or someone vomits.
Or farts
and, like,
in someone's face for some reason.
There's very few R-rated comedies that don't also have a gross out gag. And that was another one where I was like, why is this part of the package? It's like you're literally writing an R-rated comedy. It's like, well, someone's got to projectile vomit, and then someone's got to slip in some shit, and it's like, why? Like, I don't know why that has to be there. And I think with 80s action movies, that's just one of the things. It's just like, at some point there has to be just tits. They got to go to a strip club and be talking about something, and there's boobs in the background or whatever. And it just felt like that. You had to do it to justify the R rating or whatever.
I'm one of the. This makes me feel better because I never thought that the scene in Dumb and Dumber where Jeff Daniels shits his brains out, I never thought that was funny. I was always like, okay, he's got diarrhea. Why is this amusing? And yet everybody plays that fucking clip all the time is him shitting his brains out on the toilet. I'm like,
true.
I feel bad for that guy because that's not fun. This is not funny. That's awful.
Yeah. It's also a sound effects gag too. Like I'm not too fond of fart jokes anyways, just because they always use stock sound effects, and I'm really fed up with stock sound effects and things. Because I think the only fart joke, because I don't find them funny in movies because they're always fake. It's like there's 8 sounds of farts you can get on a CD, and it's always one of those. And so it's lame. It's the same as the pot breaking sound or the creaky door sound effect. It's come on, you couldn't have just recorded the actual door the person walked in. Why did you need to use a stock effect? And so that's why fart jokes aren't funny to me. And belch jokes as well, because they also play the same belch sounds. And so I think the only fart joke I ever laughed at was, what's the comic? There's a movie. It's based on a comic book, but it's not like a comic booky movie. It was one of Scarlett Johansson's first films. God damn it!
I don't know what
I feel like Steve
about.
Buscemi's in it.
Hold on. Let me see. I actually don't know. Wait, you're not talking about not Ghost World or whatever. What was the other
Ghost
one?
World.
Ghost World. Okay, got it.
Yeah,
and yes,
and there's one in there.
That.
And it made me laugh because it sounded like a real fart. And it was one of those farts that doesn't have it's just or whatever, just thing, but it felt real. And so then I laughed because the reaction was, it wasn't some big cartoonish noise. It was some guy just walks in and just makes and that to me was funny because it felt more real. But even fucking Game of Thrones did a fart joke one time, and they played a stock fart sound. I just remember being what? On this show? Really? Anyway,
the one that bugs me is the crowd scream. I hate this one crowd scream where there's one loud woman in it that you can hear, and it's you always fucking use it. It drives me crazy. Sorry, Marco. Go ahead.
You mean the gasp?
No,
that one?
Right.
Yeah, that one. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, it's got a name because it's.
I'm sure it does because it's everywhere. It's everywhere.
Yeah, and it's used a lot in trailers for the the comedy drop, where in a comedy trailer.
Yeah, the music cuts out. You hear the scream when somebody's just dropped their pants. And it's in the background.
Yeah,
it's the same one every time.
Yeah, it sucks. It does suck for sure.
Now, my thing was what bugs me is, and I'm probably one of the only people, but a lot of the old movies and even newer shit is footsteps. They drive me nuts. You'll get a tense scene, and the footsteps are so goddamn loud, and it's it just takes away from it. It's what fucking shoes are they wearing? Are they tap dancing? I don't know if you guys ever noticed that, but it happens so much.
Yeah, footstep Foley is a big one because I feel they also use stock sound effects as well, which is weird because
always sounds the same, always the same noise.
Yes, yeah. And it's weird because whenever you see the behind the scenes, it's always Foley artists who look, we've got some cement here, and they're doing the footstep sounds with their hands on different surfaces with their shoes and stuff. And yet whenever I watch movies, the footsteps all sound the same. And so it's why do you even hire these people? Anyway, whatever.
Yeah, that shit bugs me. Sorry.
I have stock footsteps. Here you go. Hear that? See? Then it's going to unlock the door.
Yeah,
no, door opens. Yeah. Oh, that's a surprise sound. Sorry, go on.
Those footsteps sound okay though because they had a bit of dirt in them.
Not too bad. Yeah.
That's the thing. When you have that sort of grinding dirt, that sort of adds character. I've always said this. One of my favorite fucking sound effects is from the movie Legend when Darkness steps out of the mirror for the first time, and he steps and his one fucking hoof just crushes into the ground.
Yeah.
And it's such a satisfying sound. It's got that deep fucking and it also has the dirt as he turns the hoof. It's so satisfying.
Well, I have all the I was playing some of them earlier. The Predator super punches, which are just so good, like this one.
Yeah, that is pretty good.
Yeah, well, I lucked out because somebody found the sound bank and sent me a copy of it. So I'm like, oh, I'm keeping those because those are the actual sounds from the movie. And I'm like, oh, somebody actually made these. I've actually heard some, I think they call them stems. Is that the word for them? I don't know if that's the actual word, but you can tell when it's somebody doing it because you hear all the prep for it. There was one that was an explosion. You can actually hear them light the fuse and run. You can hear the footsteps running back before it blows up. So, but yeah, it is strange that on multi-million-dollar productions where they must have people that can do this stuff, and yet you do hear the same fire effects a lot when something ignites. That one is always the same one. Like you said, the door opening is the Doom's door sound. Pottery breaking, crowd yelling. It is strange how much of this stuff, I mean, I guess they just think maybe most people don't care. Maybe they just figure most audiences don't care.
There's got to be a point, though, because... Like, I mean, obviously, like, the Wilhelm scream is the big one, which I'm been sick and tired of for, like, a decade. But, like, it bugs me because one of these days, I'm not an accountant in any way, but I would love to see the final balance sheet of, like, one of these blockbusters just to know. Because, like, when they say, like, this movie costs, like, $300 million, like, I just want to know, like, why? Like there has to be like 100 million waste, like just waste. And I want to know what it is. Like, I just want to know how much shit they like, because at the end of the day, if they're using fucking stock free sound effects, it's like, okay, so you didn't pay for these. And there's so much stuff that's like, that just seems like it's all like this fucking standard stuff where they have like a sound bank and all this other stuff. And I'm like, where is all this money going? Like, because that's the thing that drives me nuts. Like, I want to know where it's going. And I'm assuming it's all, like...
Well, I think you're right. Yeah. I think there is a lot of waste, because I was talking to somebody who works on some of this stuff in the visual department. And he was telling me, and this really should have been a duh type of thing, but he said if you look at the Marvel stuff, which I've completely checked out of Marvel. The last thing I really watched from Marvel after Endgame was Loki, and then I just stopped because I'm sick of it. But he said, oh, yeah, they're using the same... previs for everything, and they're building the same fights. Just look at the fights. They're all the same. They just add a couple things in here and there, but they're essentially all framed the same. The camera moves virtually identically. And when you start noticing that, yeah, it's all the same. That's, I think, why it got boring for me, is because it is all the same. Even the sweeping camera shots are largely the same things, because that way it's 80% pre-built. So they're not even doing effects from the ground up. So yeah, where is all this money? But I think that's also why now a lot of this stuff's imploding, is because they're realizing that this money is not really being spent effectively. I mean, the Flash cost, I don't know how much, and boy, did those effects look awful about 50% of the time.
I'm waiting for that one to come to streaming, because it's not on yet. Yesterday, though, Guardians 3 popped in, so I did watch that.
I'm not watching that.
It was good.
I'm not watching Animal Abuse, the film. I'm good. I don't need to see.
Yeah. It's fucked up, but I appreciate a movie that, like, it went dark in places that I was like, oh, it was surprising. Like, it was almost refreshing, just because it is like a Marvel movie. So I'm like, oh, well, like, this fucking like animal experimenting shit, like, they took it serious. The weird thing about Guardians is just the tonal shift. So, like, you go back to like Rocket. And well, it's not like you really see things. It's just that he's friends with these other animals that have been experimented on, and so they all have like weird, like mechanical shit, like fucking grafted to them and stuff. And it's those scenes are all played straight and serious, and they look great. And then it'll just jump back to the future where they do like fucking one of 40 like music drop things where it plays a trendy song from the 90s for like 20 seconds, and then it fades out for the action. And like that's a format I'm tired of, like the jukebox movie kind of thing, where it just keeps dropping songs like every 2 seconds, and it just felt weird because it would be like silly jokes, and then it would cut back to very serious Rocket's backstory. But I liked it. I like that they took it serious. That's what I liked. And there was some violence in that movie that was like, I'm surprised they got away with a PG-13. Yeah.
Yeah, I read
So
it was
that's-
good.
that's,
It's not that I don't think it's a good movie. I read very good things about it. I know I have no, and the thing that bums me out is I like the High Evolutionary. I know that character from the comics. He's in a lot of my favorite stories, and I heard that guy's really good. But
he was good. Yeah.
I just know I'm not going to, and my wife will go nowhere near it. She's even worse than I am. Where it's like I can't even watch the Riddick movie because I know that the CG dog dies, and it's a CG fucking dog. It's not a real goddamn dog, and I can't watch it because it bums me out too much. So there ain't no way I'm making it through Guardians 3. So
Yeah, I mean, it's not. I mean, it's still a PG movie, so it's not like, like they there's only so much they can do. But I was surprised at where they went, and like I just like to be surprised. That's all. I mean, the reason why I checked out of these movies is because they stopped being surprising. And so if I can watch a movie where I'm like, oh, okay, like they took that farther than I thought they would, at least it keeps me interested because I'm like, okay, like that was surprising.
no, that's good. It's good to hear that there's one
I
that's
think
not
that's the
just
trend
a
now.
formula.
I think people are starting to get sick of all these superhero shit, and I mean, even Disney pumping out. I mean, they just keep pumping out these franchises, and I think people are starting to. I don't know. I think they just get sick of it. How much of this shit can you watch? Like seriously, it's ridiculous.
Well, I wish they would just stop thinking about them as franchises. That's what pisses me off. Is like there's nothing more annoying than, well, this will be part one of a 7-movie series. And it's like, why not just make a good part one, see if people like it, don't end with a cliffhanger sting, and then if people are into it, give them more. Like it's so frustrating because I will say this though, because Marko and I have been watching a lot of bad movies and it's been fucking annoying me. So I went back, I got Paramount Plus and I watched all the Mission Impossibles. And that franchise actually gets better as it goes. Because like I actually unironically think that Mission Impossible 5 and 6 were really good movies. Like fucking entertaining, over the top in just the right way that made me laugh. Still cheesy Hollywood in that it's always, every movie always ends where they have like 1 second to fucking disarm the bomb. And the fucking final fight scene in the one with Henry Cavill, like, is so ridiculous. But I was like laughing to the point where my son like walked in the room. He's like, "What's so funny?" I'm like, "You don't understand." Like, I was just laughing with joy because like, like they're fighting on a cliff while these fucking helicopters are like flying towards them. And like fucking Tom Cruise's plan at one point is like, he just fucking rams his helicopter into the other guy's helicopter and they both crash and get out and have like a fist fight on a cliff while the helicopters are being dragged off the cliff with these ropes, and then it knocks them off and they're hanging on the cliff by the rope still trying to fight each other. Like, it was so stupid, but it was like very, very entertaining. And so that's that.
I'd like to think the James Bond movies kind of got better too. To be honest, like I like some of the early ones, but you watch them again and they're not that great. But I'd like to think there's a lot more depth and in a lot of the James Bond movies as they got went on. Like I guess they had to do something different, but.
Well, I feel.
Yeah, I mean.
No, I agree because I'm one of the people who does not like the Connery movies. I just don't. I don't think they're very funny. I don't think they're very good. I get that they're the groundwork, fine. I never liked Roger Moore all that much. He sounded right, but never seemed right to me. I think Timothy Dalton was the best one, which makes me the idiot again of the crowd. Pierce Brosnan was
the least
fine.
successful ones are.
Yeah.
No, for like honestly, I'm a big Doctor Who fan. I like James Bond in the same way that I like Doctor Who, which is like I'm there for the premise, and so I don't mind when it's played by different actors. I just like the idea of it. Like I just like super spy, and so for me, each Bond has a movie I really like. So for Connery, I really like Russia with Love, and I guess Goldfinger second. I know everyone always loves Goldfinger the most, but like to me, I think Russia with Love just is like, I just like that movie with Roger Moore. I love his first one with fucking Live and Let Die in it. The one where he goes to fucking New Orleans with Baron Samedi. And like all the voodoo and stuff.
Oh yeah, that I was gonna say the villains are what I like in the older movies. I don't like Bond. I like all the villains and the Bond girls are the fun part. Bond himself.
I always love Jaws.
Yeah, no, like I like. Great. Yeah, like I like the I just like. In a way, like I like the cheesiness of it. Like I actually kind of like the corniness of Bond in a way, which is what I think was missing from the Daniel Craig ones. Because like when they did, I mean, I think Casino Royale is a good movie, but I missed all the tropes. Like, I know they were trying to make a point of, like, shaken, not stirred or whatever. And, like, does it look like I care? And I'm sitting there like, I do. Say the line. Like, this is the things I like about Bond. Like, I like the silly gadgets. I like the scene with Q. And, like, I don't know. But, yeah, so that first one with Roger Moore I like. I like the fucking George Lazenby one. I like both of Timothy Dalton's, I think, are good. And GoldenEye is awesome.
GoldenEye is awesome.
So I think they all have like a good one for me, and then I there's a whole bunch I don't watch too often, like the Connery one where he goes to China. Yeah, I do. I think
that sounded like you kind of don't.
Well, he said he doesn't. He likes the tropes. So the first, I agree with you. The Casino Royale thing had a lot of what I feel like haven't aged well things to say. Well, we're not doing that, and I'm like, okay, you don't have to do it. But you don't necessarily have to make people feel stupid because they're expecting it. I don't need to be, like, I don't mind if people like I'm the same way with, like, the Doctor Who thing. Like, if you like the Connery ones, I'm not telling you you're stupid for it. I just don't like them the same way I don't like the original Star Trek. I like everything that came after. And people were like, well, how can you not like the foundational ones? Like, it's not that I'm saying that they're bad. I'm just saying I don't watch them because it just doesn't have the effect on me.
Oh, man, those fight scenes in the original one were just amazing.
Right.
Fucking like, clotheslining each other, drop kicks and shit. I mean, it was fucking like a wrestling match.
And it's the same thing as what you're talking about, Andy. There are original series episodes of Trek that I do watch here and there, the big classic ones, and then the rest I just don't, because it was a lot of rubber monsters, and, frankly, when they would lean against the wall and you see the wall wobble, I mean, it's not a big deal, but at the same time, like, okay, I'd like to see where the special effects are a little bit better. I want to watch TNG and DS9. That's the stuff I grew up with. That's what I like. So people who like Connery and Roger Moore, that's fine. I don't mind it.
That's when you know you're a fan of something, I think, like a true fan. That's how I know I'm a Doctor Who fan, because I watch all of it. Like a classic Doctor Who, I watch the bad ones. I put in my DVDs and I'll watch episodes that I'm watching it going, this sucks, but it's something I'm still going to watch. Is there a cat meowing at my house?
Oh, yeah.
Hold on.
I hear
somebody's house.
I hear a cat. It's not from mine. I don't have
You better let him in. You got another cat, Andy.
That?
They keep turning up in his house wanting food now.
Yeah, no, like a different cat showed up the other day. Chester doesn't usually meow like that. Yeah, so that's...
That's me. Sorry.
Don't worry. He can't hear that. I got my headphones on. Yeah, but so that's... Yeah, because there's a lot of things I won't put myself through. And so that's how I know, like, okay, Doctor Who is my thing, because I will put myself through the crap. But I won't pretend it's not crap, because that's one of my big pet peeve of fandoms is, especially when it's like nerd culture, like where you're already outcast for liking a stupid thing. And then even like within the nerd culture itself, there will be these nerds that want to differentiate themselves from the other nerds. And so I remember... Like, I haven't been on a fucking nerd forum in a long time, but I remember, like, being on the Doctor Who ones and, like, these fucking dorks that would be like, oh, my favorite episode is whatever, Time Lash, which is, like, considered one of the worst ones of all time. And it's like they just have to be different from all the other fans and be like, actually, this thing that everyone thinks sucks, I think is great. And it's like, fuck you. You know what I mean? Like, you're already a Doctor Who fan. No one knows what the fuck you're talking about. Like, you're safe here. Like, this is a safe space. We're allowed to just fucking appreciate the stuff that's good. But I feel like there's always those people that just have to be different. Because the thing you're saying with Timothy Dalton is, those 80s movies are good. Like, I think the Timothy Dalton ones, my whole life, were people misjudged them. Because they would always be like, and then the Timothy Dalton ones, which aren't that good. I'm like, actually... Living Daylights is a classic Bond. Like, it's a classic Bond film, and he's good in it. And License to Kill is a great 80s action movie with an awesome score. Like, and they both have great songs. And I just think maybe just because of the way he looks, he doesn't quite, he doesn't quite have, like, the appeal where I think... But then, I think...
No, but I think also it's what you were talking about with Daniel Craig and the difference. Dalton was serious Bond. When they got to License to Kill, that was no jokes, no, Amy Goodhead or anything like that. They were doing a hardcore revenge story. And it was straightforward, and Bond was like, fuck MI6. I'm just going to go get these guys myself. And I think people didn't... What?
That's why that's why I love James Bond titles, because I love like the one movie called License to Kill is the one where he doesn't have a license to kill.
Right.
It's like when you think it's like it gets revoked at the start because he gives up his fucking he doesn't give up his badge.
I always get confused that title's a Steven Seagal movie because all his ones are like that, License to Kill. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. I don't know why I would get confused with that one.
But that's what
it
I
is
think
like it
people,
is. Yeah.
That's why I think people were against Dalton, because they were coming off of Roger Moore, who was the very kind of like, he had that suave, sarcastic, double entendre voice. And now you were with Dalton, who was, as you said, not like the classic good-looking Bond, and he was playing after Living Daylights. Living Daylights is a classic Bond film, like you said. That's a kind of straightforward one. Then you get to License to Kill, and it's like, oh, this is miserable. People are getting eaten by sharks and shit, and the guy's wife's dead, and holy fuck, what is this? And it's, Dalton's just cutting people down, and he's like, fuck you, throwing people into shark tanks with money and blood, and people are getting hung from boat hooks, and he's blowing shit up. It's great.
It's a total, and also they get away with quite a bit of violence for a PG movie, because that one dude fucking explodes. Like when they turn the pressure on and that tank thing and the guy's head like inflates and blows up. I remember that scene as a kid was like, ooh, that was fucked up. Like it upset me a bit. But yeah, I think when I finally saw the Dalton ones, I think their reputation had already preceded them. And so I was surprised when I watched, especially Living Daylights, because I was like, oh, this is just a classic Bond movie. Like, why does everyone rag on the Timothy Dalton era? And then I love 80s action movies. So like, obviously like his second one's good. I think that Pierce Brosnan, to me, is like the perfect Bond. He's just, his movies aren't great, besides GoldenEye. But he himself, the way he looks, the way he sounds, his energy that he brings to like the movies, I was like, this guy is like my idea of what the perfect James Bond is. And he's just fucking let down by some fucking weak movies. But the best title sequences. That's my take on even like the fucking... the Brosnan era has the best title scenes. They're all cool. And although I do like the 60s and 70s ones, because now when you watch them on Blu-ray, they're trying to hide the nudity, like where they shine like a backlight of like the lady dancing. But when you watch it on Blu-ray, you can see their nipples and stuff. Like it's funny to me that they thought that would work.
Well, at one time it kind of did work. I mean, if you were watching it on home video for a long time, you wouldn't notice. I would assume in the theater it was pretty clear, but maybe not. Maybe the old film stuff didn't show up that clear, but it is. Yeah. You're right. It's very funny because they are clearly nude women, and they didn't even like tape their nipples to even try to smooth it out. They just left them in there, I guess, assuming nobody would notice. So. Yeah,
but I noticed.
But I saw it because I'm watching it 4K, asshole.
Yeah, that's what I love about those old movies too. James Bond included. Some of the stunts, I don't think they were designed to be watched in 4K. And when you do, you could just see all the fucking shit, that they thought was going to get lost. In the original fucking film, you could see it's clearly not him. It's just some other dude that doesn't look anything like him, or it's a different car, or there's all sorts of shit.
Yeah, I will say though that it is still way more impressive to me than any fucking CGI. Or like the stunts I see in movies now with all the cutting. Like, even though I know, okay, James Bond, like in the one I like, the Roger Moore one where he runs on the top of the alligators' heads, it's like, okay, it's not him, it's a stuntman, but that's a guy running on real alligator heads. And yeah, you can say, well, the alligators are held down by ropes or whatever, but I'm like, that's still a guy running on a bunch of alligator heads. Like, I wouldn't do that. Like, if you just said, don't worry, Andy, they're fucking tied down. I'm like, yeah, fuck you. Like, I'm not running on an alligator's head. Kiss my ass. Like, whenever people are jumping out of planes in the old Bond movies, it's like, it's a guy jumping out of a plane. I mean, like, it's pretty cool. That's the one thing. Those fucking Mission Impossibles as well. Yeah, like I think that's
sometimes.
That's the one thing that's really successful about the new Mission Impossible movies. Is
What's
the
that?
stunt works? The stunt works are really good, like the stunts, because, like at no point I met. Yeah, because he does a lot, and you really it helps. As stupid, sometimes the stunt he does has nothing to do with the plot of the movie, like where it's just like, I think in the newer ones, since it's become the trope of these Mission Impossibles that in every movie Tom Cruise does a stupid stunt, and like once they get to episode 5, they just do the stunt at the start. Like it's not even like a thing that happens later in the movie. It's just like, hey, he hangs onto the bottom of a plane in like the first 2 minutes, just to get it out of the way. But it really is effective. Like at no point did I go like, oh, that's another guy. Like they do a good job. And so that
Hey, Andy.
yeah.
I'm sorry, this is a tangent, but did you like Edge of Tomorrow?
Yes, yeah, that was fun.
That was a pretty good movie, right? What about you, Joe?
That's the one where he's in the time loop, right? Where he keeps dying and
Yes,
coming back.
that's
Is that
the
that
one.
one? Yeah. Yeah, I thought that one was good. I thought that was an interesting one for him because, I think that was you're used to Tom
Like
Cruise
the character
always
he kinda
surviving.
played and his evolution.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I like it. No, I thought that was a good movie. I like it when and I liked Collateral for the same reason because it was Tom Cruise playing a bad guy, which was unusual for him at the time. I mean, still is really. So I like it when an actor will do so. It's like The Rock, that thing where he's like, "Well, I can never be the bad guy." I'm like, "Well, then you're fucking boring to me now."
Yeah.
And I liked The Rock for a long time, but this thing where he's got, well, I can't, I have to always be the good guy. Well, I mean, he sort of got away from that in the Black Adam. He did sort of diverge because he was murdering people left and right in that movie. But even in that one, I know the comics version of Black Adam, he still wasn't anywhere near as fucked up as the comics Black Adam was. And that's where it's like, okay, I'm kind of bored of you. Go and make Disney live action movies, I guess, and people can enjoy you there. It's just not for me now. But again, I don't care. I'm away from the thing where I'm telling somebody that they shouldn't enjoy something. Enjoy whatever the hell you want. But for me, it's just it loses everything if I know you're going to be the same character every time. What am I watching? What am I watching the same thing for? That's why when people, I've heard people complaining about the new Star Trek series, Strange New Worlds. They complain about it because it's too modern. And it's like, okay, guys, it's not going to be the same thing forever.
Mean?
I don't know. It's because they don't want it to ever.
In the future. What does that even mean?
It means nothing. It's just people who want the same shit that they've always watched. And I get that to some degree. You want the stuff you grew up with to still be there. But if it's not, things can change. Go back, watch the old shit, man. It's not ruining stuff. I hear people, it ruined. That fucking didn't ruin anything. Shut up. You still have the DVDs. Go watch them. It's still there. It didn't disappear. It's not like Marty McFly in the picture just because they made a new Star Trek. And it's funny now that Spock makes jokes. Suddenly your childhood's ruined. No, it's not. Grow the fuck up. I'm sick of these people. I really am.
I think,
dude, I love that old Star Trek stuff. Like, but I went and tried to watch Next Generation, and I always had that really in high regard, and it is great for its time. But I tried to watch it again. I got into like halfway through season 2. I was like, fuck me, this is tedious. Like, it really is. And I stopped. I was like, I'm kind of, you know what? Some of these old episodes aren't as good as I remember them, and that's just me, whatever. But I don't want it to be exactly like that. It needs to evolve and be better. Like I don't know what people are bitching about.
I think the only time it's a problem is when it involves the original actors. Because for me, it's really easy to disassociate something when it's just a completely different cast. So, like, in the case of, like, Strange New Worlds, it's like, okay, they're telling these stories that take place in a certain chronology, within the Star Trek universe. But, like, they're all different actors. To me, it's more offensive if you have the original actors and then you do weird things that sort of changes the continuity or,
like Luke Skywalker. Or...
Yeah. Like, that to me is when it's like... Why'd you do that? Like,
or
it pisses me off.
Or like in the female Ghostbusters reboot. The thing I didn't like about that was why did you have the original people in it if you were rebooting it? Why bring the original actors back to remind you that they ignored them? I never understood that because they brought them all back as different characters and restarted the series. Why?
Yeah, there've been a lot of dumb decisions, and I feel like I would love. For a lot of these companies, just like I want to see the budgets, I would love to know the honest behind-the-scenes truth of a lot of decisions that get made and like why certain things happened. Because I want to know how much or how little thought gets put into it. Because I feel like it's like if they got these deadlines, like with these Star Wars television shows, I'm wondering, is the writing bad because these writers suck? Or is the writing bad because... you just need 2 or 3 years of like prep and planning if you're going to make something that's like 10 hours of content or whatever. Like there's always, I mean, to me it's just like there's a reason why when a movie comes out of nowhere, like everything all at once or whatever, like that film, and then you find out, oh yeah, like they've been working on this movie for 10 years and like they've been shopping it around and it's been something they've been thinking about for a really long time. So of course these filmmakers can come out of the gate with an amazing film because they've actually been thinking about it. And then you watch all these these Star Wars things and it's just like, maybe the problem is this just isn't enough time. Like, you're just not giving people enough time. And that's why the plots of these movies don't make sense, and why these Marvel movies are like just kind of mediocre and lame, because like no one's thinking about them. And like maybe that's the difference. It's just like maybe you do need to take 4 to 5 years in between, you know, franchise movies to actually make something good. Like, I don't know. But then there's then there's deviations to that where you get a sequel like Spider-Man 2 or something that comes out like a few years later and like is really awesome. And so I don't know, like maybe there's no rules.
Well, I think I think it changes depending on what you're talking about. I think there is something to what you're saying where because I think the biggest problem, at least for me, with a lot of the modern stuff is whether it's Marvel or Star Wars, which, don't forget, both Disney properties, so I think there's a common denominator here. Those things, because the Ahsoka thing is coming out soon, and I watched the first couple trailers, and I went, oh, okay, this looks interesting. I like Thrawn. I read the books with him. I like that character.
Yeah. I can't trust them anymore. That's all I'll say about that. Like, the trailers are good, but I do not trust them.
I totally agree. I don't go by trailers, but the fact that Thrawn was just there, I went, okay, I'm interested based on that character. And the fact that in the animated series, from what I understand, he's done pretty well. So I'm like, okay, it sounds like they haven't completely fucked this character up, so I would be interested to at least try the show. And then the voice actor for the cartoon said, oh, well, if you haven't seen the cartoons, you're going to be missing out on a lot. And I went, oh, fuck it then. If I have to watch, it's like Marko said, I should not have to watch 3 series. I shouldn't be doing homework to enjoy your story. To me, that tells me you don't have a good story. If your story can't survive on its own in its series, you don't have a story. I'm sorry. You're cribbing and hoping that you can just remix something else that somebody else did. It's fine to have callbacks. It's fine to have cameos, that type of stuff. Doctor Who did that famously. You'd have multiple doctors. Oh, a big special. 2 doctors, 3 doctors, 5 doctors, 10 doctors, whatever. That stuff's fine because it's here and there. But each of those seasons and each of those doctors had to stand on their own 2 feet. You had to have them there. And in fact, what's so great about that series is that each of the doctors, in many cases, is a contrast from the last one. There's something different. You have to tell new stories. Yes, the Daleks can show up. Yes, the Cybermen can show up. But if it's the same stories all the time, which does happen in Doctor Who, then you're like, okay, I've seen this before, and you want something fresh and new. The Disney and Marvel stuff all feels like it's all too interconnected. It does feel like maybe it's on too aggressive of a schedule, maybe because they're just trying to get it out before people get sick of it, but they don't realize that putting out so much of it makes people sick of it. There's no space for anything to breathe anymore, and you're just bam, 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 layered with shit. And now I've been ranting for 2 minutes.
I don't know what the solution is, because when they started the interconnected, like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it was a really exciting thing. Like, to me, I was impressed by it, and I was like, this is really cool, like a bunch of movies that are interconnected. I think the problem with the newer ones, well, I have a huge problem, actually, which is I cannot believe that they didn't reverse the blip. It pisses me off that that's literally part of the canon of that universe now, because any Marvel movie that takes place after Endgame, the fact that the blip happened really bothers me, because as a story thing, it just makes so little sense that all I do is think in my head of all the fucked up scenarios that the blip existing creates. And I just wish even though I hate it in every season of Doctor Who where they always reverse time to solve the problem in the season finale, I think it's lazy. But in the case of Marvel, the fact that they didn't reverse the fucking Thanos snap, and because now when you watch even like the Spider-Man movies in that universe, I have to think, so in this world right now that this adventure is taking place, there was a period of time where 4 billion people disappeared for 5 years and then reappeared again, and they're the same age as they were when they left. How am I supposed to accept any story that happens in that world? Like, everyone would be fucked for life. You'd be like, remember that day where fucking grandma just fucking disappeared out of a plane and then reappeared 5 years later over the Atlantic and died again? Like, there's so many fucking crazy scenarios that run through my head, and just thinking, like, how could you go about being have a normal day knowing that magic is real, that one time a fucking alien giant purple guy came and made fucking half the population disappear, and everyone just kind of go, yeah, so I just went back to my job, it frustrates me. That's all I'll say about that. The fucking blip is a stupid thing.
Or like husband vanishes and mom gets remarried, son kills himself, dad comes back and goes, what the fuck happened? I've only been gone 5 years.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it pisses me off. Like it should, like, think about, or fucking guy disappears while driving car on freeway, 5 years later reappears on the fucking highway and gets run over.
Right.
All the people who are going to fall out of the sky, all the people who are going to appear in somebody else's house because somebody else bought it because no one lived there for 5 years. Like,
How many planes are in the air when that happened? And when they all come back, it's like you said, it's a mass body dump. Like all those people are pretty much dead again anyway. So why bring them back?
I know, because I haven't done the math, but I there was one day where I was going to do the research just to be like, how many planes are in the sky at any one time? And so how many people does that equal? And then think, okay, well, some of those, the pilot probably disappeared, which means everyone on the plane's dead, because if the pilot's gone, like no one's flying the plane, so there must have been like mass fucking plane crashes. And then, of course, all the people who disappeared out of the plane and then reappear in midair 5 years later. It's so frustrating to me because that baggage ruins all the Marvel movies for me, like the ones that take place after Endgame. Because I keep just thinking, like, why didn't you fucking guys reverse this? Like, and they had the way. It's like, I feel like, you know, with the same thing with like with Last Jedi and these other movies where they have this, where, you know, the subversion of expectations things where like, well, this is what the audience expects, so we're not going to do the obvious thing. And then sometimes the obvious thing is what the audience wants to see and would be the most satisfying. And the fact that they literally have a time stone, and then instead of using the time stone, fucking Iron Man invents time travel, and it's just another layer of like, just use the fucking time stone. Like, why? Like, it.
No, Andy.
No, but it's just, but I get it. Like, because if you watched fucking Infinity War, you'd be, okay, good. So they're going to use the time stone in the next movie to reverse it. So then they find some stupid contrivance to get rid of the time stone. And then I'm supposed to buy that when pressed, Iron Man can invent time travel? Like, fuck you. Like, it's shit like that drives me nuts. It's like, it would have been so much easier. You know, okay, fine. Some nerds would have, it's like if your plot gets leaked online and you go, oh, the script leaked online, we better change the ending or whatever, and then you just end up with a shittier movie. And it's like, look, you eat it, man. People fucking, you know, spoiled the script, fine, but that's the one you wrote, which means that's the story that's going to make more sense. I'm talking about a different scenario now, but you get what I'm saying.
Well, these modern movies have ruined time travel for me, honestly, in a large sense. I kind of can't stand time travel anymore, period, outside of... Large-scale time travel is just fucking garbage now. I just can't stand it because it's like you said, you start thinking about this stuff and it all falls apart. So for me now, time travel only works in a couple of scenarios. The really small-scale stuff like Back to the Future where, okay, it only affected Marty's life. Therefore, I don't care about paradoxes all the way. Because it's just the one guy. It's not the entire world. It's not going back to kill Hitler. Like Terminator. I rewatched the Terminator 1 and Terminator 2 not too long ago. Now, they're still great movies in terms of the movies themselves. But I sat there and right away, even in the first one, I'm like, why would Skynet only send one Terminator? Why did Skynet not send 100 Terminators? Why didn't they send one every day of every year for 20 years? Just to make sure. Because a machine would do that. This is nonsense. It's just pointless. They're going to win. Skynet won. This is all bullshit. This is the last imagination of Kyle Reese as he lays dying because there's no way the machines lose. No way. They're too smart. They're too much faster than we are. They would layer the planet.
No, but the machines don't have heart. The machines don't have heart. That's the thing. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know.
Yes, it was the power of love.
I know what you're saying. They're like, humans have got no chance, but I guess then there's no movie. You know what I mean? I guess. I don't know.
Right. No, I still want to watch T2 to see the building explode. Like, I'm still watching it, and it's still great. And I want to see the tractor trailer fly off the fucking freeway. Like, I'm not saying I don't like the movies anymore, but anything where it's a world or universe-ending event now, when it's time involved, I just automatically start to get into the silly zone. Like, I can't take it seriously. Doctor Who has an exception because Doctor Who's never treated time as anything serious. They're just like, oh, fuck it. We'll just change whatever we want. It won't matter. There's never been any real gravity to time travel in Doctor Who, which is why I love it, because it's just kind of like, we'll change it, you know, and if we have to change it again, we will, and that's fine, and that's okay. That actually exempts Doctor Who from, because there's a lot of universe-ending type of stuff, and it can get silly too, but it's meant to be silly. So I don't care. I
think, that's actually one of the funny things about that show is, like, it's actually only been in the new series, like, since they rebooted it, that they really asked a bunch of, like, questions of time travel itself. Whereas like the old show, it's funny to me that it's a time travel show that I can 26 years when it was originally on the air, I don't think they ever, like maybe once or twice dealt with the idea of a paradox, or even like, you know, like they would have a little sentence like, oh, I can't save this person because it changes history or whatever. But they never dwelled on it in the way that, you know, a lot of time travel things now where they always have to like talk about the implications. In Doctor Who, like they never really, for a show that features time travel really heavily, they never really asked any of the big questions about it. It was more like, I think even when they even did paradoxes, it was more just like the weird science fiction energy it would create if you know, you're in a paradox and then there's that one with the two brigadiers and they touch each other and then like it creates an energy ball or something, you know, like it's just, they never dealt with the serious things. And yeah, maybe that's a good thing because maybe like the more serious you get,
a great thing. I think it's great.
The more serious you get, the more you think about it. And then, I mean, the thing is though, like I'm not so much of a nerd that I really ask those questions too much, because I just saw some videos lately that discussed how, and I never even thought about this, that time travel itself makes, I mean, obviously it makes no sense, but like it makes even less sense because since the Earth is spinning through space, if you go back in time to the 50s, Earth isn't even in the same place.
Right.
So like you would just, someone did this video that's like what would actually happen. The guy just like goes back in time and then just wakes up in space and dies because like the Earth isn't there. Because like it wouldn't be because it's moving constantly. Sure. And so, which I literally never thought of.
What about the Star Trek 2009 movie? I know it's been a while, but they had a bit of time travel in that, as you remember. What do you guys think about that?
I think that was actually one of the best moves they ever made in terms of trying to do a new version of the same characters, splinter it off into a different branch of time. I thought that the black hole fracturing time, I thought that was the best move they could make, because then who cares if it's not Shatner? Who cares if it's not... It's different crews doing different things. It lets you play. And what do they do in the second movie? They just fucking do Khan again. You can't even do a new story. You just got to run back to the well. So they even gave up on that. But the 2009 one, I really like the fact that it's an alternate timeline. I think that's a fucking brilliant move. Do that shit, and that way... The purists, the purists can sit over there and they can jerk off to their fucking TOS box sets and nothing has been affected and it's all preserved. You're fine, guys. And I know now I'm being an asshole. I'm sorry, everybody. But this is the fandom that really pisses me off. But that was a very smart move, so that even if that movie bombed, all the old stuff was preserved. You could be like, oh, no, different universe. So don't worry about the fact that, you know, I don't know, that Spock and Uhura are together. Oh, that's blasphemy? No, it's not, because it's a different timeline. So don't worry about it. Brilliant move.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty good. Did you see that, Andy?
Yeah. I was the thing is I've never been huge into Trek, so like I don't notice when there's anomalies, so I just sort of watch them as they come, and it was a fun movie. I mean, even with Next Gen, the only ones I watched were the ones that people told me to watch. Like I think we had like a top 10 when I was doing those reviews with Florence.
Oh yeah.
And she picked out some classics to watch, and they were good. I could probably watch more of that show, to be honest. Like, especially when I watch a lot of new things that all feel kind of samey. Sometimes I do like watching old things just to get that feeling again of just like, oh yeah, like this is what TV used to be like or whatever. And I think I liked what I liked about Star Trek was just I liked the idea of just a team working together to solve a problem, and like they all have their ranks and stuff, but like they're like it wasn't full of like petty drama. Like I just feel like a lot of new things now, like even if you do like a Star Trek, you got to have characters like, you know, fucking having like relationship drama and like all this shit where it's just like just focus on the plot. I mean, that's why I like classic Doctor Who. It's just a fucking classic science fiction adventure show. The second the fucking bad guy's dead, the credits roll, and it's just like that's the end of the story because the bad guy's dead, and there's not like fucking all this other shit afterwards. And then like when the show got rebooted, it's like new Doctor Who, it's like they kill the bad guy at the 10-minute mark so the Doctor and his companion can fucking cry with each other for like half an hour, and it's like come on, like I'm here for science fiction stories. Like I want a straightforward science fiction story where it ends. I'm like, that makes sense as a conclusion, and I can go to the next week's episode. And I just feel like a lot of new stuff is all, and it's not bad. Like obviously relationship stuff does like hook viewers in, to watch like a whole season of something, and you see like how a relationship grows or changes. But sometimes I like shows that are just straightforward stories, like, or watching fucking, like Columbo, or like fucking, like detective shows from like the 70s and 80s and shit, where it's just like, sometimes I just want to watch TV for 42 minutes, a guy commits a murder, and at the end, Columbo figures it out. Like, sometimes that's the experience I want. Just a nice, satisfying little story. It's packaged nice. At the end of this thing, fucking Matlock is going to solve the crime, and then you move on. Like, I like that.
You like Matlock?
That's what he took out of that whole thing. Oh, Andy, you like Matlock?
That's what I got out of that.
I just remember when I was young, I always thought Matlock was obviously like, it's just like, this show is for fucking old people. But that stupid theme song, I saw that theme song so many times because it was just, I think it came on after a show I watched or something. That fucking.
Oh yeah, I'm the same way. I know that.
And it's like, it's a horrible title sequence too, because it's done with like these cheap VHS effects where like it does like paused pictures of the actors when it shows their names on the screen.
Oh,
it's like,
I love that one. I love it when it's just a freeze frame and it's not really well done and they're kind of half in motion.
That freeze frame where like it's got like less colors and stuff, because it's like one of those like fucking effects you can do with 2 VCRs. Like, anyway.
Dude, that fucking, I've watched Law and Order so much back in the day. That fucking hammer
the
sound.
Gavel sound? Oh, God. Yeah.
Fucking still resonates in my head to this day.
God, I was just talking about, because that show, I mean, you want to talk about formula top to bottom. Holy shit, that is formula top to bottom. But there was something I was talking about where I said, man, why don't they just follow the Law and Order formula, man? The first half is the investigation, and the second half is the big... actually, it was Trek and courtroom shows. Because the courtroom episodes of Trek, I generally dislike 80% of the episode. It's boring. Like, I know what we're going to get to. We're going to get to a big courtroom scene. So why do I have to spend, out of a 40-something minute whatever, I got to spend 30 minutes leading up to it when you know the best writing is in the courtroom scene, because that's when it's going to get clever, and that's what, if it's done well. But, I gotta find the prosecutor who used to know the defendant because he's the only one who'll defend him because everybody else. Okay, I could skip this shit. Just half and half it, man. Give me the investigation in the front half and give me the goddamn courtroom scene in the second half. Law and Order did it for 20-something years, and now they're doing it again. It worked, obviously. Just stick to that, because, like, Measure of a Man. Everybody talks about Measure of a Man. The best TNG episode of all time. The one with Data, an android. Is he human? Is he not? Great scene. When you're in the courtroom, the rest of it is a fucking drag. It's like, get to it. We want the thing where, Riker is tormented because he's got to prosecute Data, and he's saying all this terrible shit about Data being a toaster and pulling his arm off and turning him off. That's the good shit. Everything else, I don't care about Picard and the judge advocate general that he was boinking back in the fucking academy. Like, I could give a fuck less. Get to the thing where they're in this courtroom and making the big speeches. That's what's fun about the courtroom, the big speeches. Yeah, Law and Order had it right, but yes, that gavel sound is stuck in my head. But
that's a Star Trek episode I watched.
It's a right. The courtroom scene is great. Right.
Yeah.
That's great. Everything else, do you remember it? Do you remember anything outside of the courtroom of the actual trial?
It's filler.
No.
It's filler stuff.
Right. And it always is. Every Trek episode like that is always filler. Even the new one is like that.
The worst show for that shit was that Plane Crash Investigation. I don't know if you ever saw that show back in the day. And I kind of liked it at first because I found that shit fascinating, what really happened, But it's like, you could explain it in like 10 minutes. But then they start off and they're like, oh, well, Betty was ready for her job at 3 a.m. in the morning. She was having a coffee and she was saying to her husband, well, it seems like a strange day. And then it's like, co-pilot Jacob Williams at 5:45 a.m. was using the bathroom, but he knew he shouldn't have eaten those tacos last. It just goes on and on. It's like, fucking just get on with it, man, Yeah. Just tell me, like, what happened and why it happened and the repercussions,
So
like,
much...
drag that shit out.
So much content is just about filling time. You know what I mean? Like, because that stuff frustrates me, too, especially if it's like, if there's a documentary aspect. It's like, you could just tell me the story. Like, I mean... But then, obviously, then you wouldn't watch the whole thing. But I just... Because it would be a really short show. It's like...
Well, that's why, like, Rescue 911 did that. But it was multiple stories inside an hour. You did 4 or 5. So it was quick, man. It was like, okay, Johnny didn't realize there was a short in his boiler. He turned it on. It blew the fuck up. And he was scarred for life. And they rescued him. Okay, next story. It just chopped through. Like you said, it was bang, bang. Let's keep moving here. It was minimal fluff, because that is the problem with a lot of this stuff. Is that show was great because it was minimal fluff. Because it is a lot of filler. Even in the Doctor Who stuff, like now, and this is a lot of shows. It's the season-long story. I don't need season-long stories anymore. I'm done with that, too. I don't need long form in every show, because then it does become, all they care about is the beginning and the end. So everything in the middle is little clues, little things in the background. Oh, did you get it? Did you see that? Did you notice that spray paint on the wall? That means something. You'll find out at the end of the season what. And then you're just like, well, then why do I care about the middle? If the big point is the background story, then this doesn't really matter. And you can tell it doesn't really matter. So it is... bottle episode is the word for, like, one and dones. Okay, Columbo, whatever.
Well, everyone's... I mean, I should go back and do... I was going to say a scientific experiment. But, like, look at, people's favorite episodes of these shows and just see. Because it seems to me... And I need to do a proper poll to get the information done. So maybe I'll go on the internet and just ask. But it seems to me like a lot of times people's favorite episodes are those kind of outlier ones. Like, especially with Doctor Who, it's fascinating to me that, like, everyone's favorite episodes are kind of ones that the Doctor isn't in. Like, they're always weird ones. Like, with the new series, it's Blink, right? Blink was like, just like, oh, this is like, this episode's brilliant. And it's like one of the ones where the Doctor isn't even in it. And it's funny to me that, like, that's considered one of the best. My favorite is Caves of Androzani from the classic series. One where the Doctor...
Great episode.
No, it's amazing, but it's also, like, kind of the Doctor doesn't have any power in that episode. Like, they're just... Basically, the plot is happening around them, and they just keep on getting shuffled and being kidnapped by different people who are in the middle of, like, a political power struggle. And, like, they just kind of get shuffled over here, and then this person kidnaps them, and then they go here, and then he's in a spaceship, and has to go back, and whatever. And all the Doctor wants to do the whole time is leave. Like, his whole plot is just rescue his companion and get out of there, and just can't. And I think that is the case with a lot of people, like, with Star Trek, the episodes that I watched, like, one of the most popular ones is that one where Picard becomes old, like he's in like a dream.
Inner Light.
Yeah. And that episode is essentially like, it's also like, it's funny to me that that's at the top of everyone's list, and it's kind of like, it's a dream episode, essentially. So it's funny, like, you have this show that you love so much because it's all about this crew, and they do these space adventures, and there's the captain, and there's Worf, and blah, blah, blah. And then the favorite episode is the one where fucking Picard's having a dream where, like, the main cast kind of isn't even involved, and it's with a whole different cast because he's in a fucking dream world in weird rubber old man makeup. And, like, it doesn't mean it's not a good show. It's just interesting to me, and I feel like X-Files is the same one. Like, is anyone's favorite episode any of the stories that have anything to do with the overarching Black Ooze B-plot?
I'm one of those assholes. I love the mythology episodes. I mean... I like them all. When it comes to X-Files, I like all of it. Although once you get past the movie, my wife had never seen X-Files, even though she's the same age as me, had somehow missed the whole thing. Yeah, that's what I said. And I said, okay, we're going to watch it, right? But I cherry picked. I said, we're going to watch the first 5 seasons front to back, and then the movie. And after that, we're not watching everything. We're going to start being very selective because I found a really good list.
Yeah, it gets pretty bad. It gets bad after a while, honestly.
Well, the problem is... Well, there's a number of problems, but one of the things is I actually think Robert Patrick was good as Doggett. The problem is I don't think the show ever committed to actually making him into a replacement. They were trying to do this weird half-hearted flip where Scully now was the believer, and then he was supposed to be the skeptic to try to invert it. That's a great idea. Like, that's a neat idea, is to take this character you're very familiar with and then change what you think based on this traumatic event, which is Mulder leaving. That's a good story element. It's a nice way to change things up. They didn't actually think it through. They obviously did not have a full understanding of what they wanted to do there. It's very clear. So I think the mythology episodes are really good. The problem is they ran it too long. If the movie had ended it, perfect. The movie puts the nail into it, and now we move on to something else. And they tried that with the super soldier thing, but even with that, they couldn't get away from the aliens. They had to keep running back to it. Again, they just dragged it out. But I think that I like those. I like the Fluke Man episode too. I love all the standalone stuff. But I think the mythology one's really interesting because they were so important for Mulder's story. That was his central thing. But I get why a lot of people don't.
Right. Well, I'm not saying they're not good. I'm saying, like, when you do look at, like, these sort of top 10 lists of, like, popular shows, they do seem to be populated by outlier episodes. Now, whether that's because fans are so used to them that the episodes that stand out are just the weird ones, but I mean, like, even like, I'm just trying to think of like some other shows where that's the example, because it's tough with a show like Lost, for example, because the whole thing was an arc. But it just that seems to be a trend, and I'm just curious, like, if that translates to other franchises that I'm not really like aware of. But
okay.
I think
it probably does. Because I'll tell you what, for me,
you can watch them. That's the whole point. The point is you can put on an episode, and if it's a fucking weird outlier one, it means it's not bound or tethered by the fucking story arc. That's why I like classic Doctor Who, because I can just watch a story. Whereas like the new show, do I want to watch fucking episode 7 of a fucking 2-season nonsensical Stephen Moffat story arc, or would I rather just watch an episode that doesn't mention that at all and is just a nice little self-contained thing? It's easier to watch.
No, I think you're right about that. In that sense, you are right. So I was misunderstanding. Yes, I think that people enjoy the episodes that shake up the formula of the show. So in that way, you're absolutely right. The X-Files episodes that most people really like are the ones that aren't mythology, because they're single-contained episodes that are different. Like the one where it's the inbred family in the house that often comes up, and the mother's living under the bed, and it's fucking like Last Hill on the Left type shit. Or The Hills Have Eyes. A lot of people love that one. It's very creepy and scary. The Fluke Man one, because the creature is so neat. And like somebody had recently asked me, because I was talking about Knight Rider, and they said, "Oh, I've never watched it. Should I watch it?" I'm like, "Okay, I'm just going to tell you right now. Knight Rider is mostly shit. It's really just not a very good show. The ones you want to watch are the ones where Goliath is in it, Carr is in it, the one where Kit dies." And then there was one, and there's a couple of, but they're all with like specialty villains. There's something special about the villain, and that's what, because the rest of it is literally Michael shows up, he's taller than everybody else, he solves a crime, he leaves. That's the show. And he banters with Kit here and there, and maybe Bonnie gets pissed off at him for an hour. That's the show. There's nothing to it. It's so drab and formulaic that even the talking car can't save it. But then you get to the one where, I love the one where Kit gets put into the acid and then he's having PTSD. Like, that's an emotional episode for me. I watch that and Kit's struggling and he won't do super pursuit mode. And I'm like, come on, Kit. You can do it, man. Just do it. You're a supercar. Just believe in yourself. Like, I love that fucking episode. And Car's great. But the ones in between, oh God, just skip them. So yeah, it is an outlier thing. You're right. I think there is something to that.
Yeah, I love, I just love that fucking Goliath, because I did this as one of the fucking trivia questions on Beyond Synth, because like no one actually ever remembers why or how Michael Knight can have a twin brother if he...
Oh, I remember when you read that. I'm like, I know that answer because I just watched Knight Rider.
Because that's one of the funny ones, because like I never even thought about it, honestly, until I was an adult. Like, because when I first saw the first episode again, like as an adult, I'm like, oh yeah, he gets plastic surgery at the beginning. It's like, oh yeah, how the fuck can he have a twin brother if he, like, that's not his actual face? Like, it doesn't make it. I mean, obviously they didn't have that planned, but like...
Well, listen, the whole premise of the first episode is fucking warped when you actually think about what was done to him. Like, that's fucking abuse. Like, what they, giving him his son's face, and giving him the same name. It's like, whoa, man. I mean, he gets shot in the face by the woman, and then he wakes up and he's got a different face. It's like, okay, that guy is going to become the Joker, not a fucking crime fighter. You've just ruined this person for their entire lives. But the show's whatever, give me a car, you're fine.
But we don't actually see what he looked like before he got his face shot, so maybe he was like a really unattractive guy, and so like actually coming back at Hasselhoff was like, actually, this is pretty good.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, he might have been an uggo. There's no real way to know. Again, it's not a show that I think was thinking about the mental trauma of what's going on. It's a show about a talking car. That's the gimmick. So... yeah, that's why
80s, man. That's why the 80s is awesome, because like they'll just do things like that. There's no consideration. Like everything now has to be all meta, so you have to like what questions would the audience ask instead of just letting things be. And that's why, like, and when I just like, everyone's always concerned now about like fucking offensive comedy, like just like, oh, you couldn't make this movie anymore, or you couldn't make that anymore. But I also just think about the movies where it's like, you couldn't make Back to the Future because you you would have to explain why an old man is friends with this high school kid. Like, the audience would need that answer, whereas, like, as a kid, I didn't. It was just like, hey, he's just friends with that old scientist. Who gives a fuck? Like, it's got nothing to do with the story. It's like, they're buddies. And I never once questioned it until I was an adult, and people were just like, "Do you think it's weird that, like, there's this old man who's, like, friends with this high school kid?" And I'm like, I guess? I'm like, but, like, that wasn't a concern then, you know? And so the same thing with Knight Rider, where it's just like this crazy fucking trauma gets done to this guy and, like, surgery, and he's got a talking car, and it's just like, let's just fucking get through this as quick as possible, because this show is just about a guy in a talking car, and that's all that matters. That literally is all that matters.
You can still get away with a lot of shit, man. As long as it's about love, you can. I mean, look at Twilight, for Christ's sakes. I mean, it's a vampire that's like, what, 300 years old? And he's dating some chick in high school. I mean, and nobody batted an eye for that one.
Statutory rape, baby.
Yeah.
It was perfectly normal, you know?
Yeah, I think a lot of things change when the guy is hot.
You know, you're right, though, about there is a difference now where it's rare when a show doesn't, when a show's okay with being silly or lightweight. There does seem to be a thing now where they're afraid to just have a show that doesn't think too far into its premise. You know, everything has to be, very grounded and realistic, and we have to think this out and make sure that No, you don't. No, you don't. You can just have a silly show. It's perfectly fine. You can have a silly show, and it'll still be fun. Like, they could do Knight Rider now, and I think people would watch it you would have to vary the formula a little. But if they rebooted that now with a guy in a talking car, and it was just that he came into town, because you were mentioning Columbo. Columbo is one of those things that has persisted all through time. Everybody still loves that show. And it's the most simple premise. Guy shows up, points at rich guy, figures out he's stupid and why he did the crime, and then walks out after saying, one more thing. Like, it's the same shit. You never see his wife. You never have any backstory. You don't get into, why he became a cop, or did he ever have to shoot a kid? Did you ever shoot a kid in the line of duty, Columbo? What? No, they would never even broach the subject. It doesn't matter. They could do that now, because why not? It doesn't have to all be grounded and realistic and, what are the implications if you didn't have the chain of evidence on that thing? Oh, fuck that. He arrested him in half an hour. Who cares? He's the bad guy because he's wearing all black and, he's got a funny goatee. So he's obviously the bad guy. Just arrest him. It's done. It's fine. Too much seriousness and stuff. There has to be a little bit of levity.
I think it's all right, as long, like you said, as long as you don't take yourself too seriously. If you're just like, and it's obvious, then I think you can get away with shit, because it's like, it's just fun, But if you try to be serious about it, it's like, people are going to pick it apart. It's going to be like, that's fucking bullshit, man. And come on, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't come into stuff having to do homework. That's my point. I can just enjoy something.
I mean, for me, I think it's just the meta thing. I think that's what happens now. Is just like we are now, all the writers are people who studied writing, or like went to film school and have been like studying the tropes and all that stuff. And so I think people just aren't like filmmakers and stuff aren't confident in just doing like a straightforward thing. It's like there's no movie now, like if you do a time travel movie, they got to make a joke about another time travel movie to explain their plot. Like, everything's about shortcuts. It's like, are we going to do this story? It's like a dance movie where a guy and girl falls in love. Well, there's got to be a joke about Dirty Dancing in there, and someone's got to make a joke about Patrick Swayze or whatever, like, as if just because you want to be like one step ahead of the audience. Like, well, they're going to be thinking this comparison, so let's make sure our characters acknowledge that what the audience is thinking. And I think at the end of the day, all the audience wants is just to be told a good story and have characters they like. And so that's why, like when I watch just a straightforward action movie now, like, it makes me happy, because I'm like, just that's what I'm here for, man. I just want to, a plot I can follow and some cool action to watch. Like, the characters don't need to be referencing other action movies every time because everything's been done. So, like, you can't just have a joke every 2 seconds. Like, it's like, they jumped in the car, went up a big bump, so let's make a joke about Ferris Bueller or whatever. You don't have to do it. You just fucking do the thing, have confidence that it'll be, like, entertaining, and then, like, just do the thing. Do the thing. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. This is, I think, the biggest downside of stuff that tries to appeal to nostalgia, because I don't think that's necessarily bad. I don't think the idea of having nostalgic elements is necessarily bad, but it's gone way overboard, where now it does have to always be an overt reference or something. Like the Flash movie is a good example, because I watched it, which it has.
So
good
did you
parts and
pay
bad
for
parts.
it? Because it's not on streaming yet.
Yes, I paid for it. I was like, screw it. Because honestly, you know what? It looked like the movie had such a disturbed development. It had such a problematic development that I was like, okay, let me see if this thing, because anytime I hear really divided opinions, then I'm interested. When I hear everybody saying the same thing, I'm less interested. But when I hear love it, hate it stuff, I'm always like, okay,
I watched Justice League in the theater the same week that Thor Ragnarok was out, because everyone was just talking about how great Thor was, and I'm like, but this Justice League looks like such a mess. Like, I kind of need to see it more. Yeah. Yes. Like, I was more interested. It's like and of course, Ragnarok was a really fun movie, and Justice League was garbage. But like, I had to see it. Like, I was more interested to see what was so fucked up about it.
Well, that's kind of my thing now. Is I like to watch movies that are, that either are like B-movie type. I like to try to pull out the good stuff from them. I'd rather try to approach it from a positive angle. So Lando will tell me many times on our show, he's like, okay, you are reaching for whatever goodness is what is objectively a terrible film. I'm like, yeah, I know I am, because I just don't want to be miserable in a film. I want to try to look for good stuff. I like the idea that somebody cared somewhere in the film. Like, just please show me a glimmer that you gave a fuck. And I'm like, I'll be on board, and I'll try to, smooth over the rough edges. So The Flash, I just want to see Michael Keaton as Batman again. I'll admit, it was a nostalgia bait, and it worked. Because I'm just like, I like Michael Keaton. I like the Michael Keaton Batman. I always liked it. I love the Batmobile from that. I love all that stuff. So I'm like, all right, let me watch it. And when it wasn't trying to go back to those movies, because there's, he says, though, you want to get nuts line, and it's awful. He says, yeah, I'm Batman. It's awful. Like, those line deliveries are terrible. He clearly didn't even want to say them. It's very obvious. It's just groan worthy. But then the other stuff where he's talking to the Flash about his parents dying and everything, like, that's good. It's actually good. There's good material in the middle of that film. The beginning is completely pointless, and it's bad effects. And then the end, I don't know what the fuck they were thinking with the end. I mean, it's bizarre. It is one of the most self-erasing endings of a film I've ever seen, where the ending basically says the character is an idiot, was at the beginning, is now, this was all for nothing. It's like, wow, that's a message. But the middle part, where Batman is helping him and everything, he's still good. Like, Michael Keaton's still a good Batman. And, they got him doing neat stuff, and his, again, the little character stuff is really good. Supergirl's good. All that stuff I actually thought was really good. And I figured, and I say this about a lot of movies now, modern movies. I'm like, when somebody, a fan editor, gets that movie and shaves 40 minutes off in the right spots, that's actually a good film. And you got to kill that ending. Like, there's the last 10 minutes are so bad, they have to go. Otherwise, it's almost as if the movie is kicking you in the nuts for having watched it with the ending that's currently there, which is just not what I think they were. I hope that's not what they were aiming for. Is, hey, fools, you just watched a movie that has no fucking point. Ha ha, you're stupid. That's the ending. So
yeah, I want to see it. I mean, like, I'm waiting for it to come to streaming. I want to see Michael Keaton, and that's pretty much it. So we'll see. I mean, I've seen clips of the ending, and it looks really bad. Like the effects. Like, I've just seen clips of like that final field fight scene where everything looks like a cartoon, and it's just weirdly bad. Like how is it so bad, kind of thing.
Yeah, which, like I said, it's the thing that we talk about with CG, because I'm not against CG effects when they are the finishing effects of something. Okay, you got to polish something off. You want to get rid of wires. You got to add something in the background. Okay, that's fine. Sprinkling CG here and there isn't the problem. The problem is it's become a replacement for making a movie. It is, because when you see the heads of people in their suits, I'm pretty sure in The Flash particularly, 90% of the time, they took the head and pasted it onto a CG model. It doesn't line up. It's shifting a lot. And it's just jarring. And it just pulls you immediately out of the movie. So the parts where Batman is flipping around, that's not Michael Keaton. Now, they could have gotten a stunt guy to do it, but I don't think they did that. I think they just put a CG dummy in there and have it flipping around. So not only do I already know it's not Michael Keaton because he's like 70, so I'm not stupid. I know Michael Keaton isn't doing backflips in your movie. But now you've added insult to injury by making it an Unreal Engine 2.0 dummy that has no weight and doesn't look real and has like shady pixels all over the place. And you've just made it even worse. Whereas when I see Michael Keaton in the cowl talking to the Flash seriously, the movie suddenly becomes really good because, oh, that's right. It's real actors doing acting, not CG fuckery all over the place that just looks awful. So
Yeah.
it's a 50-50
Speaking of which,
flip.
I hate Twitter so much. I'm not on there. I'm only saying that because as you were talking, I was trying to look up a Batman thing, and then it said trending Rapunzel, and I clicked on it, and then the first picture is a CGI picture of Rapunzel with her boobs out. That was literally the top thing that was there. After I'm like, how is Rapunzel trending, and how is that the first? Is that what's trending? This fucking stupid AI picture of fucking Rapunzel with these big boobs.
Twitter is
ridiculous.
so much of a rotting skeleton at this point that I'm not surprised because
Yeah,
it's
I don't
dead.
actually use it anymore. Like I still have an account, but like I literally don't do anything with it. There's a few Twitters that I will like read, but I don't. I'm done using it.
Yeah,
I'll say.
That's God, I hate Elon Musk so much. I really hate that motherfucker. I mean, he was always a scam artist. It's now just very obvious that he was a scam artist, and he ruined something that I actually liked. I liked Twitter before. I know.
Well, I can't tell with people, like sometimes I can't tell anymore if it's like a meme. Like if like to pretend to like something that is so obviously stupid, and that's the joke, and like I'm the idiot for believing that you like the thing, because like to me, like he's always been sort of a huckster, but before he wanted to be like a celebrity, I didn't get all the hate. Because there's all these people who always hated him. And I'm like, hey, whatever. If he just fucking sticks to running these companies that are kind of doing some interesting things, like, okay, whatever. But then, like, as soon as he wanted to be, like, a famous person and, like, is memeing all the time and posting dumb things and then, like, doing these, like, when you watch those clips where he shows you the things he was promising with his companies, like, 7 years ago, and, like, none of that shit happened.
Of course.
And, like, just full-on lies. Like, oh, we're building a robot company, and it's a fucking guy in a suit,
Right.
like, dressed as a robot and shit. And it's just like, how do people still, like, take what this guy says at his word? I'm like, he brought a fucking guy in a robot costume on stage and said they were making this robot company. And it's like, shit like that just, to me, is, like, so obviously stupid, where it's like, there's a guy in a robot costume, or like, check out this fucking invincible truck, and then throws a rock and the window breaks, and it's like, why are you listening to this guy? Like, it's whatever.
People buy into cults of personality, and they just they've invested so much of themselves into somebody else, which I
But
think
he's
is a
just a
horribly dangerous
stuttering
thing.
dork.
Well,
like,
yeah,
and
but you
what
have
I
to
love too is
understand, the people don't look at the people who are standing by him look at him as a godlike figure. They really thought that he was a genius, and they don't want to admit that they misjudged somebody. That's a very common human thing. Like, I don't understand it as much. I don't necessarily want to tell people you are a complete fucking fool, because I understand that there's a reluctance to. It's like when people are in Scientology and Get Out. Well, at some point, those people were all in, and something major has to happen before you're willing to give up something that you are so invested in. I don't know why these people are into Musk so much. Maybe they just love space flight or electric cars that much. It's possible. And they just can't let go of it. I mean, you see it everywhere. It's everything. It's like when celebrities get revealed to be horrible people, and there's people who are like, well, maybe those women wanted him to, poke them in the ass all the time. Maybe they were asking for it somehow. And it's like, what the fuck planet are you on? Come on. You would never say this if this was your wife or your daughter or your mother, but you're going to say it because it's somebody you don't know. Somehow those people might have been come on. It's fucking nonsense. And it's the same with him, is I think people bought into. And like everything, if he was quiet, then they would still probably venerate him if he didn't say anything. I mean, Tom Cruise is a certified weirdo from what I understand in real life, but he's smart and he doesn't jump on couches anymore. He's just like, look, I jumped off of a cliff on a motorcycle. And everyone's like, yay, Mission Impossible. And they don't care about the fact that he's part of what's essentially a cult religion, because somebody obviously came up to him and said, Tom, you can make a lot of money if you just shut up and jump motorcycles off of stuff and do stunts and run a lot. And he's like, okay, I can do that, and I could just be a weirdo in my own home like most people. Okay, fine. Nobody cares. Musk can't do that. He has this compulsion to broadcast his fucking psychotic ideas all the time and just rile his people up into a frothy mess. And I don't get it, but I just pissed off he ruined Twitter because I happen to like it. But, that's what
I mean,
happens.
to be
Shit gets
fair,
ruined.
I've hated Twitter for, I think, a good, 7
you
years
never
or something.
You were never a big Twitter advocate.
I liked it for the first year. I remember thinking, this is really cool. And then it was fun because I was using those weird following apps, and it was like a video game to me of just getting followers. And then, and then it just, I hated it for so long, and now it's just such a shitty place. It's crazy. But then, but there's, I don't know. I'm trying to find good alternatives. Everyone,
I'm on Blue Sky. I love Blue Sky.
I'm on Blue Sky. It's fine. I mean, obviously,
it's
it
weirdos
needs
and
more...
perverts. It's my people. I'm fine with these people. I love them. I love them.
Yeah, I think the issue now, in a weird way, not that I want to really dive too deeply into this. I don't really like fucking politics talk, but I feel like Twitter's gone one way, and I feel like Blue Sky feels it's a little too far the other way, and I feel like if it sort of drifts into more kind of neutral, normal person territory, I think it's okay. I'm fine with that. I prefer that over the other, but for my personal tastes, I'm still more of a normal middle guy, and I just don't like the negativity of Twitter, because all I ever look at Twitter is science stuff, a few science communicators and people who I read, and all their fucking replies. It's Jesus, what does this website become? Someone can just say some basic thing, and then all the replies are just idiots, and they all have blue check marks. And so it's just a horrible. So but I think Blue Sky just needs some more. I've got 3 invites. I should be just giving people those invites because
well, you know what though, you're right about that. And I think that the problem with Blue Sky is that it's closed right now except for invites, and so the problem is that the people who adopted it are inviting everybody who's like them. And like I said, that's okay for me because I happen to like artists, weirdos, and perverts. So it's great for me. But if you are somebody who maybe doesn't want it to, and you can, of course, block this stuff just like everything else. But I've literally scrolled to pictures. I'm like, holy shit, okay. Can't look at that at work type of stuff. But that's okay because these are the people I'm following. So I have to kind of, I should know better than to be flipping through it at work. But if they open it up, then you will have more of the hard right people. And whatever, I don't care. It's a political reality. I'm sorry, it's what it is. Right now, there is a militant anti-right group of people who are just blocking people all over the place for that stuff. But if I have seen people who have what I will call rational opinions on things, and not the solution to the homeless problem is let's just go out and shoot them all and then they'll be gone. Yeah, those people are not going to have a good time on Blue Sky. But if you have a reasoned, rational opinion, I don't think people are having a problem. So I think once it opens up a little bit, that will naturally happen. More people kind of, like everything, kind of will dilute the extreme fringes that are on there. Like I said, it just so happens the extreme fringes are fine with me because they're weirdos.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's I mean, I'd rather be there than the other place, but at the same time, I still recognize it. Where I'm okay, I see, But whatever, maybe they could just be just a future where we just have different social medias for different things, Well,
that's kind of what it is now. I mean, that's what it feels like.
Because people were bitching about that with Threads, where they're just oh, they're going to fucking cut out the news and all this stuff. I'm well, then just go somewhere else. If they're literally going to make a website that's hey, man, talk about movies and pop culture and shit, but if you bring up, vaccines or whatever, we're going to downgrade your shit. It's not, to me, it's not censorship. If it's if you want to talk about this stuff, there's other platforms where those conversations are happening. Maybe this space is for fucking, normies who don't want to fucking every conversation to go in that direction. Because, that's Twitter. It's just you can have a conversation about fucking potatoes and you're 2 moves away from some guy talking about fucking UFOs and vaccines. And it's just everything gets funneled into those directions. And it's these topics are not fun.
I watched a movie about flying saucer the other day. Oh, well, do you know that autism is caused by alien-infused potatoes and distributed by the black sites of the government? I bet you didn't know that, you left son of a bitch. And it's okay. Yeah. I just happen to like a space movie. I was talking about Starman because I happen to like Jeff Bridges. Do we have to do this? And it's yep, we do.
This is what it's talking with talking with Marko in private. We'll be sitting there and I'm just hey, man, I just got done eating a banana. And then he just launches into this crazy shit. Isn't that right? He's not even paying attention.
All the time. Yeah. What crazy shit? What the hell? Starman's a great movie, by the way. I fucking love that movie. And he's a great actor too, Jeff Bridges. But that movie, there's something special about that movie. I'm sorry. Maybe it's just the nostalgia or something, but I try watching it again, and that movie just doesn't age for me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't age badly. It's just something about it. It's timeless.
I'm gonna be watching it. I haven't watched it probably in, God, it's got to be 15, 20 years, something like that, since I last watched it. But I'm gonna be watching it because I'm gonna be doing a show with a guy that I went to college with this guy. And I hadn't talked to him in probably 20 years. And just this random series of events, I happened to look him up. Because I'm like, oh, man, me and him were like fucking like dead heat type partners for a while in college. We were doing all kinds of shit. And then we just lost touch for no reason. And I was talking to him, and, man, it was like we had never, like no time had passed. And I'm like, holy shit, man. Like the guy who like blew up my dorm room and burned it down and all this shit. And I'm like, man, it's like we never left. Like, oh, yeah, college was fucking awesome. But we're gonna do a thing on John Carpenter films because he's a composer, and like he's a doctor now. Like he teaches experimental music and drone and shit theory, and like, okay, let's do a Carpenter thing. And one of the ones he picked was Starman, so I'm gonna watch it again. I'm pretty sure it's not gonna be in my top Carpenters. I already know that because
fair enough. Fair enough. It's a little bit different for him, really. It is different for sure. More of a mainstream type movie, but. Yeah, no, I understand that. It's not, honestly, it's probably not one of my favorites of his either. But I guess it just showcases how good he was in his prime. I mean, he started making crap later on, compared to his early stuff, which was kind of sad. But he had so many good movies.
I think
The Thing is my favorite horror movie of all time, and that shit is fucking incredible.
I mean, that one period of like 10 years, every movie he made was, I mean... there were no bad ones. I mean, there really weren't. They were just, and I do like the fact that he made something like Starman. Yeah, okay, it's good to see. I do like it when directors take chances. I mean, even David Lynch made what is it called? The Something Story, which is a very straightforward movie. You know, before he went back to doppelgangers and weird little mutants popping out from behind buildings to scare people. So I like it when people do that stuff. So I'm sure I'm going to enjoy it, but will I want to go immediately watch Big Trouble in Little China? Well, of course I will. Will I want to go watch, fucking Assault on Precinct 13? Well, yeah, of course I will, because Starman's a love story, which is fine, but there's other people I go to for love stories. Carpenter, I want weird shit. Like, I want weird shit and very simple scores, But that's okay. I mean, it's...
Also, Andy, I now that you mention it, you don't eat bananas properly. I don't like the way you eat them, okay?
I like to do the banana trick where I sort of like rotate it in my mouth at the end for a bit so it looks like a dick.
Oh, Jesus.
It's called the banana trick.
That's what I mean. You're not eating it properly.
No, that's the proper way.
It's the proper way, but I don't know if I want to watch you
trying to test whether I was
way.
listening or something?
Yeah.
I was, actually. That time I was.
Well, I do feel bad, Marco, because I feel like we've just been both talking. So I did want to ask you, because I know you mentioned you've been playing Dead Island 2. So I've been playing Dead Island 2 with Lando, and it's a fucking blast, man. I love that game. Oh, yeah, I love it.
It is. Look, it's not fucking... It's not... It's nothing new and nothing like... they're not reinventing anything at all, but I don't give a shit, because I just love... I love how... I just love the action in it. I love the gore. I love smashing zombies. I love exploring the environments. It can be a little bit of a drag. The only thing really that I think is a little bit of a drag is you have to keep going back to unlock some of those loot boxes or whatever. But that aside, some of those environments are incredible. And I just love, like, after a hard day of work or whatever, or you're in a shit mood, I just love fucking slicing zombies to bits. Like, there's nothing better for me to relieve stress and tension and shit. And, but yeah, it's a really good game. I like it.
Yeah, Lando just moved, so he's been in the middle of moving hell because he moved into a new house, then they found, like, the AC wasn't working. He's had all this shit going on. So I was like, okay, let me look for a game where it's just, like, stress release. Like, simple, straightforward, brutal action.
You don't have to learn too much. It's just, you just pick it up and play it. If you haven't played it for 2 weeks, you could just pick it up. It's not hard. I mean, it's not a lot of buttons to remember.
Yeah, the sound design's really good. The drop kick is fucking awesome when you drop kick a zombie into a fucking acid pool. Oh, it's beautiful. I love it. And that was a perfect thing because I played the original, and this is basically the original except prettier. I mean, there's nothing really different, and people are complaining about that. I'm like, no, that's what I want. I want the simplicity.
That's all I want.
I just want to hack fucking arms off dead people. It's great.
Yeah. I played Dead Island 1 and 2. And then obviously Dying Light 1 and 2, I love those. And they're better games, I think. But just something about Dead Island, I mean, I really like it. I was so stoked that it finally fucking came out after what? Like fucking in development for, I think it was like almost 10 years or something, wasn't it? Something crazy.
I think it was more. I actually watched a little documentary about it because I was curious. I was watching a thing about it. So Dying Light came from Dead Island. When they did Dead Island 1, they wanted to make the parkour element in Dead Island 2, and then that team basically got thrown off the project because they thought it was too ambitious. So they went and made Dying Light, which I love too. I thought Dying Light 1 in particular is an excellent game. Dying Light 2, it was fine, but I thought there was something different about it. It wasn't as good for me, but it was still fun.
It didn't have the grappling hook. I mean, it had other elements in it that were great. I do like... There's some stuff in it I really do like a lot, but I like even after finishing it, you've still got the dark zones you can go in and get extra stuff, and it kind of added a few things, but I think it was a progression from the previous one. Dying Light probably was the better one. I mean, at the time, I was obsessed with that game. It was so good, but...
well, I think the setting of Dying Light 1 I liked better, too.
What's that?
I think the setting of the first one I liked better. I think there was a couple things.
A little bit
I
better.
wouldn't say Dying Light 2 isn't bad by any means. I mean, it's still a very fun game.
Right.
But I think 1, maybe it was because it was a new idea. Like the parkour thing was new for this. And it was like, oh, wow, okay, now you're climbing buildings and shit
incredible.
like that.
Right.
Yeah.
It was great.
And the day-night thing was fun. Yeah. You know, it was tougher
and the
night.
thing is, but this is another thing that the day-night thing. This is another thing that kind of pisses me off a little bit with games. The thing about Dying Light was... On its own, I would probably prefer Dying Light 2, but the fact that they had the following add-on, I don't know if you ever played that, was incredible because it was out in the countryside. You had this buggy that you upgrade. It was just such a good add-on. It was different, but yet it was the same. You know, so I really like that. And what pisses me off is games now don't do that anymore. There's no fucking add-on that you can pay. It's all just online shit, you know? And that's great and all, but I like... when games do, like for example, Red Dead Redemption, the original one, did the Undead Nightmare. You know, you ain't going to see that with Red Dead Redemption 2. They're just going to they just focus on the online elements now, and that's it. And that's great and all, but I want another story. Why not use the same freaking map, the same areas and everything, and just have like different characters and a different story or something? You know.
No, I agree.
Anyway.
I think a lot of people are irritated by the live service thing where it's like, okay, it's just trying to drag out the same thing with no real changes and just milk money off it, or you parcel it up in all these little pieces and none of them. A lot of times when they do that stuff, you can tell, I think a lot of times in games where the expansion was actually on purpose. It was intentional. They knew what they wanted the expansion to be. And it's something that's, yes, use the same basic framework, but now we want to tell a new story or a story in a different way, as opposed to, oh, we can sell this for $10 and it's going to be an hour of your time doing the same shit with like a gun that's now pink instead of purple. And that's what you bought $10 for. That's what I think pisses people off. And there's a lot
season
of that.
pass. Now it's a season. Oh, there's a couple extra levels. It's like, but it's not really a new story. I've already, like for example, Zombie Army 4, you know, like I killed the Hitler. Like he's dead. And now what? like the story is everything died as soon as he died. All the zombies. And now you're telling me there's more shit to kill. And then every fucking 6 months there's a couple of new levels. It's like, what? I don't want to keep paying for this. Like, give me a story or you know, I'll give you fucking $70 for a whole new fucking thing. And it can even be in a lot of the same areas. I don't really give a shit. But don't try to sell me this crap for $10. That's, you know, anyway, doesn't make any sense. That's, you know, that's for me anyway. Sorry.
No, I think Sniper Elite handled the extra levels. I love Sniper Elite. I think you do too, right, Marko? You like this, the regular Sniper. Yeah.
It was pretty good. Yeah.
Have you played the expansions of 5, like the Kraken Reborn or whatever, the new levels out of that?
Yeah, that was good.
Those are great. See, that game has the system down, man. That thing's got one gimmick, which is, do you like sniper games? Then we're going to fucking give you the sniperest game of all time. And we're just going to keep... And that one is one where, yeah, it's just a new setting, but you're basically doing the same things. But somehow, I think because it's the sniper element, they've got that down so tight that it doesn't matter. That essentially, I played the Kraken level is just an outdoor version of the indoor one with the subs. But I somehow don't care because that X-ray shit just works every time. Like, I fucking don't care. I just want to see somebody's skull shatter over 15 slow-mo seconds, and I want to be taking the longest shot possible, thinking I'm clever because I'm behind a brick wall and the guy can't see me, and now I've incinerated his eye socket through the back of his fucking neck, and it just works. And I know I'm a sucker, but I love that game, and I don't mind paying for those extra levels. They just always work for me.
Yeah,
I adore that game.
Yeah, some games it kind of works for when they do it right, and some they don't really. It's like, it just didn't make sense to me in Zombie Army 4. I mean, it was a good game. Honestly, that was a little disappointing. I mean, it was great and all. There's just some of the levels were disappointing. You played that, right? Number 4?
Yeah, I played 4. I felt like it was a little bit short, and there were some repetitive bits.
A little short, and some bits were disappointing. Like, Trilogy was great, okay? I loved it. I actually played that through twice with friends, loved it. It was incredible. And then, but number 4 had some great elements. The graphics were great. There was some really cool shit. I just saw some of the levels they could have done so much more with, like the level with the shark. You're in I just thought there'd be a scene where the zombie shark attacks you. No, there isn't. It was like they build it up and you think it's coming, and it ain't there. It just doesn't turn up. It's just a zombie shark on the fucking side that you can electrify or whatever. And then even when you go to the zoo and that, you're like, all right, there might be some fucking animals. I'm expecting some. I mean, you're at the zoo, right? And no, there's no animals, nothing. It's just zombies in the zoo. Like that, shit like that. I just thought it was a little disappointing. They could have really been creative with some of that shit. But
Borderlands 3
felt
the same to me, too. Now, I was the same with Borderlands 3, because I really liked Borderlands 1 and 2. I enjoyed the pre-sequel. I thought it did some fun things, like being on the moon, so there was the jumping element. So it changed up enough that it was like, okay, this is basically a reskin 2, but whatever. And then 3, I don't know, 3 just kind of lost me, because I'm just like, oh, this is literally the same thing with just a couple of cosmetic differences, but it's not really any different. So it's kind of the same, whereas 1 and 2 were really good, and I had a blast with them. Then 3, the formula just started to kind of not work as well anymore, because I don't think they changed it enough, and it was, I don't know, some of the magic kind of went away from it, whereas I've replayed Wasteland 3 now, I think 5 or 6 times. And even though I know the whole story, that game just keeps working because there's always little things that are different. I somehow accidentally do something different every time because they designed that game so well that little choices that you don't think matter, so you don't think about them, then you find out there's actually a big repercussion from it. And I think that game, I don't know if you've ever played Wasteland 3.
I haven't actually. No, not that one.
Normally, it's a game I don't like isometric, the overhead. I don't know, what in the old Fallout stuff. Like, I'm normally not a person who likes that stuff, but I like post-apocalyptic stuff, so I took a chance on 3. Me and Lando played it, and it was the story in that is really why you play it. I mean, there's an entire expansion of Wasteland 3 that is essentially a version of the Kobayashi Maru, where you can't really win. You're going to pick. You have to decide which, in your opinion, morally, is the best of 2 bad choices. And there is no win scenario where everybody comes out clean, which is unusual. Yeah. To me, you don't get a lot of games where they're like, no, you're going to have to actually end up in a bad place. And you just have to decide that for you, which is the worst place to be in. But some group of people is going to suffer. Who do you like to suffer in this scenario? I like shit like that because I'm like, oh, fuck. What do we do? Because Lando and I, when we played through this expansion, which is called Steel Town, if anybody's interested, that's the Steel Town expansion. We were convinced that there was a way, because it's basically like you go into this factory and there's people who are striking because they're being worked to death, and the management is basically oblivious to it. And either you have to side with the strikers, which likely results in the death of all the management, who aren't all evil, or you side with management, which probably results in the death of many of the workers who are being overworked. But either way, innocent people are going to die, and you have to decide who are you going to side with. And it's not like it's just a binary thing where it says, okay, pick one side or the other. You realize that you've been siding with one side or the other through these little decisions the whole way. And I'm like, we actually sat there with the game paused and we're like, okay, what do we want to do here? And we've had discussions, like 5 or 10 minute discussions on the morality of what decision we're going to make, which is almost no games do that. Almost none I play make me do that. So
those are the conversations I have when I play Mario with my family. We sit there and
those Goombas, man, they think they're helping Bowser out. I mean, honestly, they're an oppressed class, in my opinion.
They did nothing wrong.
Some fucking Italian fat ass comes and jumps on my head. I'm just walking in the middle of the street. What the fuck?
Yeah, we've had it's fucking stupid. I haven't played any of these games. Do you know how Baldur's Gate 3 works? That looks like a game that I think I would like.
Say that. I mean, don't ask you about that. That's funny.
But I think it's turn-based, and I'm not into turn-based combat.
I thought they said it's not, if I read it correctly, it's not purely turn-based. It's almost time. It's like there's a timer on the turn. So you can't just sit there forever. There's actually kind of, if you remember Fallout, if you've played like Fallout 4, Fallout used to be that when you activated VATS, everything froze. And then you picked the body part and you shot it. And then they altered it where when you activated VATS, it just slowed time down. But like the enemy is still coming at you. So if you just sit there forever, it's going to get you. So you both have the ability to make some decisions, but you can't just sit there for 2 hours and think about what you want to do. There is some time pressure, but I think there is still a turn-based element to it. Okay,
because I mean, like, I just prefer doing the action. Like, I like pressing X and swinging a sword. Like, that's and just hitting circle to dodge,
But I think what the thing is, I don't know that much about the game. I usually don't research it that much. If I know I'm going to play it, I just all right, I'll just wait and let it surprise me. But I'm pretty sure, like, you control multiple characters, and there's a lot with each character, so I believe that's why they do it. Because if you're controlling 4 and they all have their own spells, their own attacks, you just can't do it all in real time. I believe that's why they do it, and I know that's why the previous Baldur's Gate games were like that. I don't know if that's right, Joe, you think?
I've got the wiki up for Baldur's Gate 3 now because I like to, know what I'm talking about occasionally. And it does say turn-based combat similar to Divinity Original Sin or Divinity Original Sin 2, which I played a little bit of that. And yes, that is where I think time stops. I thought they had altered it a bit, but it does seem like it's mostly that. And Andy, I'm with you on that. Normally that kind of, like I said, the fact that I played Wasteland 3 at all was an anomaly. It was just, I had gotten so sick of first-person shooters. We just played so many in a row that I literally just wanted to try something different and see if it was misery. And I really just genuinely love the world and the story and the fact that the choices you make do have consequence. A lot of games say that, and then they don't actually matter. You're still getting the same ending. Wasteland 3, no. You have at least 3 or 4 endings that are very specific to moral decisions where you have to actually think about what are the repercussions, and sometimes you don't even know. So Baldur's Gate 3, from what I've read, is that way, where it's like, no, you are as invested in the story as the gameplay. But I think it looks like it is turn-based. So, yeah, if you don't like that,
Yeah, like, honestly, though, when it comes to games, it's the same as movies, where, we're just so inundated with media that it's different than when we were younger, and, like, you would... It's like we had all of film history to choose from. This is what I always say this sentence, but it's like, when I was a movie nerd when I was in high school, and so I got to pick from every movie before 1997 of what I was going to watch. So if you went and rented classics, you just watched so many awesome movies, and then it felt like, why do all these new movies suck? Because you're watching everything in real time now. And at the end of the day, it's like, you'll see something compelling, but it's like, every year there's like, 3 or 4 that for whatever reason, like, touch you specifically. And it's like the same with games where I see the games get reviewed highly. And so I'm like, oh, like I'll check it out. But then there's really, for me, only like one game a year that really, maybe 2.
Only one?
1 or 2 at most. That really, like, make me do that thing where it's nighttime and I'm supposed to go to bed, but I have to kind of keep playing. And I want that to be every game. Like, every time I see a game, this game got like 9 out of 10 on all the websites, but it just doesn't, for whatever reason, doesn't, do whatever. And then sometimes I'll get stuck on these weird, like a simulator games. Like, there was this one that was free for a while on PlayStation called Graveyard Simulator. And for whatever reason, I just started playing it and then just wanted to keep playing it. The same with Stardew Valley. Like, I always saw Stardew Valley on the fucking... Are you talking about
Graveyard Keeper?
Yeah, Graveyard Keeper,
Yeah, my wife likes that one. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like, it's weird because in between I'm playing like these action games and stuff. And then when I first played Stardew Valley, it was the same thing. Like, I don't love the graphics or anything like this, but for some weird reason, once I started it, it was just like I was compelled to keep playing and figure it out. And the same with Graveyard Keeper. And so there's just these games that just sort of pop out where I don't know I'm going to be sucked in by it. And I have rules like yours, like where I don't like isometric view. I don't like turn-based. I don't really like twin-stick shooters. Not a fan of shmups, really. But then sometimes you'll just play one, and it's like just really compelling. And I keep on saying, like, oh, I love RPGs. I like big, customize your character and big giant stories and stuff. And that's why I love the Bethesda games. Like, I just like that you have the RPG, but you're also doing the combat. Even if it is clunky, I still prefer to do the combat.
Sure.
Like, that's part of my thing. But then I'll go in thinking, oh, this will be the game of the year for me. And then I'll be playing Zuma for 3 hours in a row. You know what I mean? Like, I never have it's like it's out of my control.
Yeah,
I had,
Go ahead. Sorry, Marco.
Oh, that's all right. I had a game that just out of nowhere, and it's weird. Like, it was just an indie game called Crying Sons, and I got it for free on freaking Epic or something. And then I was off work at the time, and I had a lot more time than I normally do. And I thought I'd just give it a go, and that game just blew me away. Like, it's got its faults, but it was just something completely different to what I normally play, and I always want to replicate that again somehow, but pretty much every game I play now I know about well in advance, and I know it's coming out, it'll be a bigger game, but I don't know, it's like a roguelike game, which I've tried playing other ones, and I can't stand them, but this one in particular is just really good. Anyway.
What is that? I've never even heard of that game.
I've heard of it, but I haven't played it. Yeah, Crying Sons.
Crying Sons. It's basically a story-driven, narrative-driven roguelike game, which basically means if you die, you die. There's no saves. You have to restart, right? So that can be a real pain in the ass, but it can also be really rewarding when you finally do it. There is a balance with these sort of games. Some of them are just too difficult, and then in the end you go, you know what? I'm so fucking frustrated. I'm going to throw my computer out the window. Like. I ain't playing this. Like, I've had it and I ain't playing it anymore. But this one is like it's a sci-fi one. It's in the future, and you basically wake up and you've got to find out why humanity's fucked, basically. And you go through space on a journey, and you meet different races. It's almost like a little bit of Star Trek in there in a little way, like a Voyager perhaps. You're out in the middle of nowhere trying to get somewhere. And I just really liked it. It was really cool. And most people probably won't like it, but the music in it was really good, the visuals, and that was kind of turn-based too, actually. But anyway, it's really good.
Well,
I haven't. Yeah,
I'm like you, Andy, in that I barely at this point I play very few games, even though I have all the interest in them. I see when I'm like, oh, that looks great, and then I realize, I'm not going to have the time to play. I just don't.
Yeah, that sucks.
So. But where I play most of them is it's become is Lando and I usually play every night a couple hours. So I'm very now on top of co-op games and trying to follow those. And it is like you were saying, Marco, with the roguelike, which you don't usually like, and you find it. That was the Wasteland 3. To give an example, and this is what I mean, because I actually was dead set against isometric. I was like, no, never. And then, again, there was just nothing else to play, and I said, oh, fuck it, whatever. I mean, this is the only co-op game we haven't played at this point, and these are the guys who made Fallout, so even if I don't like the gameplay, I'll probably like the environment and the story, so we'll try it. And one of the first missions you get, you're in a town, and you have to, and you're meeting with the sheriff, and the sheriff's like, all right, well, before I'll help you, I need you to go up into this area where these rebels have come in, and they're killing our people, and I need you to clear them out. And there's a woman there, and she's like, well, my family was kidnapped by them, so I'm going with you whether you like it or not. I'm like, all right, fine, lady, let's go. And she's this young girl. She's a young gunfighter, like a Wild West type with a twin revolver type thing. And we're going through, and we're killing people, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, this is fun, and we're, but at that point, we were still kind of on the fence about it. And then we get to the point at the end of that particular mission, and you find out that the rebels had kidnapped her who had kidnapped her family and who'd massacred people. Her boyfriend let them in through the back gate of the town because he made a deal with them to make sure that they didn't kill him or the girl. And it's like, oh shit, because she flips the fuck out. Like she goes, because they burned and threw her family into a pit, which you go across on your way. So you see them dead, like you know they're dead. And so she's like, okay, my whole family's dead. I want to kill all these people. And then when she finds out that it's the boyfriend, she's like, I'm going to execute you right now. And the game stops, and you have to decide whether to let her do it or if you should do it. And that's, like I said, we sat there with the game paused, right? And we literally were like, is it right to let this young woman do this? Because she's out of her mind with grief. Is this the right decision? Or should we do it so that she won't have to kill this person that she loved that just betrayed? I mean, we're going back and forth. Like, we're having a serious fucking discussion. Controllers down. We're like, okay, from a justice standpoint, he got her family killed. If it was me, I'd want to kill him too. But should we let that happen? Because then, and so the first time we played, because we played through it twice, the first time we let her do it, and it fucking wrecked her for a long time. Like she realized that, she'd murdered somebody and, it was in cold, even though it was justified that, she now had taken a life. And the game had this whole ripple system from that one thing. And then the second time we did it, and at first she was pissed. And then maybe, a couple of conversations later, she said, I'm really happy that you didn't let me do that we arrested him instead so that he'll have to actually face justice and think about what he did. Otherwise he'd get the easy way out. And I'm like, holy shit, man. This is good writing. They have two completely different branches to this one decision. And it's not just, oh, well, in this one she kills him, in this one you'd kill him, but the story's the same. No, her actual interactions with you throughout the game are different based on that one decision. And there's all that type of shit throughout the game. And when that happened, that turned me around on turn-based, at least at first blush. I'm like, all right, I won't rule them out. If I read that there's an actual story that has consequences and decision-making matters, I might try it. So Baldur's Gate 3, I've read that type of thing about, so I'm inclined to try it, even though, again, I generally don't like isometric. I'm like, yeah, Wasteland 3 has got that little thing in the back of my head where it's like, well, don't judge too harshly. If the story's good, you might not care.
All I know about Baldur's Gate 3 is what everybody knows, that you can turn into a bear and fuck somebody. Like, that's literally the only thing I've read.
That's where he got Andy. That's
that's like
one.
But everyone reports that incorrectly, because everyone's like, there's a bear sex scene where you fuck a bear. And it's like, no, it's like you can be a druid who can turn into a bear as magic, and then someone else fucks the bear or something.
It's still
something
fucking
like
a bear.
Yeah, it's not as the same as like when people just say you're fucking a bear. It's like,
but it is bestiality. I mean,
That's the loophole, because it's really a druid, so...
Yeah.
Well,
the old druid loophole.
I understand though, the druid loophole. It's a hell of a loophole. I saw that the bear eats his banana and kind of twirls it in his mouth, Andy, so I understand why you want to play that game.
Yeah. The druid does the banana trick. He's a master of both real magic and the banana trick, a different type of magic.
Oh, fucking hell. Hey guys, I'm probably gonna have to wrap this up soon. I got the worst migraines. Like I had them earlier, but then they went away. But man, it just
that's okay. I was aiming for around 2 hours, but I just tend to babble on and babble on and babble on, so it's fine.
That's all right. I think we got a little bit over. I'm not cutting it like right now, but probably pretty soon. Yeah, if that's okay.
No, I mean, this is kind of it's. Well, okay, let's wrap it up this way. So what are you playing now, Andy? What game did you say you're playing now?
Honestly, right now, I'm still okay. I have been stuck on World 9 on Zuma on the Xbox for a year. I cannot beat level 9. And so I quit Xbox Game Pass, and then every 3 or 4 months I'll rejoin for a month just to see what's new, try some things out. I'm obviously going to rejoin when Starfield comes out, but then I was getting rid of some old boxes of I keep the boxes for everything, and I've been trying to tidy up. I'm like, why do I have these like Xbox controller boxes and PlayStation controller? Even if I sell them used to somebody, like it's the same price whether you have the box or not. Like it doesn't matter. But anyway, so I got rid of the box, and there was a coupon for 1 month of Game Pass. So I'm like, okay, I'll sign up to Game Pass again now. So I got playing Zuma again. I still can't beat World 9. It's like I get like carpal tunnel hands where like my fucking thumbs start hurting. I'm like, fuck this stupid World 9. It sucks. And I'm playing Ocarina of Time because I bought one of these controllers from this company called Brawler 64 or something, or Hyper something, whatever. And it's like an N64 button layout, you know, like where the A, B buttons and the 4 yellow buttons are where they're supposed to be, but the analog stick is in a different place. So it's not the shape of an N64 controller, but it has the right button layout. So when I play N64 games emulated, the buttons are in the correct place for me. So I started playing Ocarina of Time again, and I'm in the middle of that.
Nice.
I used to play it once a year. Like,
really?
Yeah, that used to be the game. Like, where I liked returning to it. I just love Ocarina of Time, and but then I haven't played it in probably like 18 years or something, like all the way through, and so I wanted to go back and play it, and then I did toy with the idea of playing some of these mods online. So I did download this one called Ships of Harcaden, because I guess there was a Nintendo leak last year or something where some of the source codes got leaked. So now you can have a Zelda game that is actually running natively on a computer. Like, you're not running it through an N64 emulator. Like, you can actually run it as a file, which allows modders to then tweak the game and make fixes and changes and stuff. So
what
there's
kind
this one.
Of tweaks are we talking about?
Well, tweaks like a lot of fucking life. What do they call it? Life improvements. What do they call it?
Quality of life improvements.
Yeah, quality of life improvements. So, like, for example, you can disable the sound of, like, there's a lot, but it's like some of them are just, one of them is, well, you can play the game in 60 FPS, so it sort of feels a little smoother, but make it so the fairy doesn't fucking interrupt you all the time with her sound effect. Like, you know how Zelda does that thing where if you're down to 1 heart, there's like a beeping sound that does not stop until you replenish your hearts. Yeah. So there's options like that, like disable the beeping, disable fucking, like Navi the fairy is constantly going like, hello, like listen or whatever. And so you can just disable it. So you only hear it if it has something new to say, but but not the repeated stuff. You can make it so it stops giving you because Nintendo has this fascination.
You can skip through that, right? Can you skip through some of those fucking tutorial shit? Because that shit gets annoying.
Yeah. So yes, you can. You can speed up the text. So like if you want to skip through talking, like you can do that. So a lot of stuff that's like that's a good. They're just like nice changes. Because Nintendo does this thing, and they still do to this day, where they love repetition and not allowing you to skip things. So, like, there's even, like, in new Nintendo games where you, like, go to the shop in Zelda and have to, like, sell items one by one or, like, sit through the same dialogue, like, a million times to a character that they know as a company you're going to visit this character, like, probably, like, 200 times in your playthrough, and yet make you sit through the dialogue every time. And, like, I don't know why Nintendo is like that. But anyway, so they do a lot of things like that where you can... and I was going to play it, and I was going to... But the only problem was you can play with high-resolution textures as well, but I don't like... Whenever I would load the high-resolution textures, the game would stutter every time you'd walk into a new area, and the music would kind of stutter a bit. And I just found it really distracting. So, like, and then I was like, well... If I'm not going to play with the high-res textures, like, maybe I'll just play the fucking one on the Nintendo. But maybe I'll do that for another playthrough is, like, play the computer one. But anyway, because I love the game. It's, like, one of my favorite games of all time. So, like, I do like to revisit it. But it is... I really wish they would remake Ocarina of Time. Like, it's crazy to me that they have not done a proper console.
They will.
Because, like... or whatever.
Yeah, because the new games also, like, even though I was playing the new Zelda, and then it just made me so nostalgic to play Ocarina, because it's just like a nice focused story instead of like the big wide open kind of free for all that the new Zelda is. Like, it just made me nostalgic to be like, I want to play Ocarina of Time again. Like, I just want to play a straightforward Zelda that 25 hours, go through the story, beat it. But the thing is, the movement of the new Zeldas is so much better. Like, just the way Link moves and how smooth it is. So that's what I would love, is that they would take the fluidity of movement, but remake Ocarina, but don't do anything stupid. Don't make the world bigger or whatever. Like, just make it the same world, just more detailed, with nice fluid movement, same story. That would be amazing. Anyway, that's all.
Did either of you play, just as kind of just because I thought of this, did either of you play the Resident Evil remakes, 2 or 3?
No, I haven't. No.
I haven't either, actually. I've heard they're good.
I played them both, and because I'd be curious. It just depends on how much you remember the original games, because
Pretty fucking
I'll admit,
well, yeah.
if I really loved 3, probably more than 2, but they trimmed. Yeah, I always liked Nemesis. I always thought the Nemesis thing was a neat idea, that you could never really escape them until, you killed them the 4th time. I always thought that was a neat thing where, I mean, don't get me wrong, 2's great. I understand why most people love 2. But Nemesis chasing you where you really couldn't stand still for too long, or suddenly he would show up, I always thought that kind of added something. And they did that when they did the Resident 2 remake. They made Tyrant into that. So Tyrant now chases you at a certain point where he shows up if you stand still. You'll hear his footsteps and he's coming towards you. I think it's a really neat way to keep you from just sitting around doing nothing. It gives the game a momentum. But a lot of people were kind of because they trimmed some things. Now, I don't think the stuff they trimmed was vital, but that would be interesting if they remade Ocarina, not to make it into an open world, but obviously to make that game now in a modern way is going to cost so much money that they probably, if they were to remake it, would probably trim some things from it. And I'd be curious how people would receive that, because a lot of people were pissed off at Resident Evil 3 for cutting certain things. And, I noticed it. I just didn't care. I was like, this is a beautiful game that has, I could go back and play the original, but then I'm dealing with the tank controls and these, low-res textures. If it still has the same suspense and the same kind of action, do I really care that there's a clock tower level where I don't go to the 3rd floor? I don't think I do. So, but I think Legend of Zelda fans might flip out if they were to remake it that way. So I don't know that they'll ever remake it in that way. They might just put some high-res textures.
Yeah, they did the 3DS remake, and it was received well. And actually, that's one of the mods you can get on computer as well. There's another one that they based it on the 3DS models, which are actually, they did improve it in certain ways, like the 3D models in the 3DS game. But for some reason, part of my nostalgia brain, I just wanted to play it with the N64 controller. I wanted the C button prompts on the screen when I played the Ocarina and stuff. Whereas the 3DS one only had, I think, 2 face buttons, so they changed the way the item system worked.
Yeah.
But
you played Link's Awakening, right? You played that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I liked that a lot. I thought that was a really good update or whatever.
No, I liked it. So weird game, and that was a good game. And I also liked that without knowing anything about it, without ever reading the Wikipedia or whatever, I picked up on the Twin Peaks thing without even knowing. I just remember it was when I walked into one of the neighbor's house and there's a telephone in the middle of the room and you pick it up to talk to the old man who lives next door, but he won't talk to you in person. And I just remember thinking, what a weird game. And it's it had this weird dream-like feel, and it reminded me of Twin Peaks. And then I read the Wikipedia, and it was Twin Peaks was the inspiration for that game. And I was like, that's cool, because it worked. Now, mind you, I don't know if I would have had that same feeling had I played the Game Boy version. There was something about this version that just with the graphics and the fidelity of what was going on, but I don't know. I've never played the Game Boy one. I just played the.
Well, I didn't either. That's why I was curious, because I know a lot of people who like that one, but that one was I think everybody liked that remake, and to me that was the Super Mario Brothers 2 of Zelda, where it's oh, this is a weird diversion one, because I love Super Mario Brothers 2. I think that's probably blasphemy, but I think I like it better than 3. I think I like 2 because it's so fucking weird. It's just not the normal Mario formula, and I just kind of dig that. So,
yeah. Well, it's a classic game.
It is, even though it's really just a reskin of a different game that was a completely different game for a different purpose. But that's okay. All right. Well, I don't want Marco's head to explode, so we can go ahead and wrap up here because
I need some heavy sedatives or something.
No, that's fine. So that's fine. My goal was to just waste 2.5 hours of time, and I've achieved that. So,
alrighty.
But I had a lot of fun talking to you guys because it has been a while.
Yeah,
so,
that was pretty fun. Thanks for having us, Joe. Yeah, that was good.
I will mention that, probably most people who are listening to this are probably already listening to Beyond Synth. But if not, the last time I talked to you guys, the show was in a completely different format. So now it's been retooled because 2020, it was after that you went to the new radio style one, right? It was after the pandemic, wasn't it?
Yeah. That's just this year. That was just this season.
Okay. Well, I have no sense of time, but the pandemic destroyed any ability for me to know what time, date, month, year. I don't know what anything is. I don't care anymore. It's all just a big slurry of cosmic whatever at this point. There is no time. There is no anything. So I didn't know how recent it was, but I think it's it definitely feels like the format you wanted it to be. So I think it's a riot. And how often are the power hours? Is there any regularity to that? Or it's whenever you feel like? Is everything just kind of whenever it works out?
Yeah, there's no rule. I think initially it was going to be like every second or every third one. There's no rule. That's basically the new format of the show. Is like if I have a silly idea, and then what happened was I realized halfway through that like I wasn't doing enough interviews this season. So then I just took a month and just recorded a whole bunch in a row, and so there was like a whole
burner for a while.
Yeah,
till your internet went out for how long?
Yeah. So
that
that's
was fucked up.
Which generated, by the
thing,
way, one of my favorite sound clips that I now have saved, which I will play now.
fuck you old bitch.
That is in my routine. I've got that saved. I was like, that is hysterical. I don't know what I'll ever use it for, but I'm pulling that isolated file out so that I can save it, because at some point I will utilize that, because I think that clip along with Lando's fucking devil laugh are like two of my clips that I don't know that I'll ever use them, but I like having them. Like this. This is Lando's. It's like 2 minutes of Lando laughing like that, where I'm like, okay, if I ever do a Faust episode or something like that, that's the background.
You pitch it down, man. You got the Shao Kahn laugh.
Oh, I should do that.
Or Shao Kahn.
Shao Kahn.
That was always my favorite. Was the one from MK2, the fucking like, or whatever. Like I love fucking Shao Kahn's voice.
We won't go too far on this, but I am curious what MK1 will be like. I'm sort of like, okay, I liked MK11, so. We'll see.
Yeah, yeah, I know it's a whole other thing. Look, I'll buy it because I buy every Mortal Kombat game. Right. So I will reserve judgment. But so far, I'm not a fan of the way anybody looks. But I'm assuming they will have alternate costumes. Yeah. I'm a purist, man. I just like the classic costumes. I just like the simple.
I'm a purist too.
Yeah, I just like the simple versions. Like I feel like in MK11, I wasn't a big fan of the designs in MK11 either, but I preferred them once they offered up the old, like, because that's what I do. I literally paid the DLC just to put Scorpion in his regular costume and to have Kano just have the fucking white shirt and the bald head and, like Kung Lao to have his original coat. Like that's all. That's what I always do. Like, literally, they can come up with all the most crazy designs, and I will pay for the money to put them in their Mortal Kombat 1 costumes. Like, that's like my default thing. And so it looks like the cameo characters all have the right costumes. So hopefully, I don't like the ninjas not having cowls. That's the thing that bugs me.
Yeah,
all the ninjas in MK1, they all just have hair. And I'm like,
I don't want katana, I'm fine.
She's there. I mean, she looks okay. I like her costume looked normal.
All I need is Kun Lao. As long as Kun Lao looks right, I don't care. As long as he's got a razor hat, I really don't care if he's wearing a fucking clown outfit underneath.
Yeah, but his hat is made of straw. I'm trying to figure out how it's a weapon in this game.
Yeah, they'll change. That's
well, because they rebooted. Everyone's got different stories now. So now he has the same hat, but I think it has like barbed wire around the edge or something.
Well, I'll say this as a way to tie this into a bow so we don't go on for another 40 minutes. I think it's going to have the thing that we liked and disliked when it came to Star Trek and video games. On the like side, I like that they're splintering into a new timeline because now they can just go crazy in a different way, a la 2009 Star Trek. I think, unfortunately, all the neat outfits that we like are going to be the goddamn pay for extra shit that me and Marko hate about games. So I think it's going to be the worst and best of the stuff that we like. But I do like the fact, I'm like, good, branch it off into a new thing. And that way, if it's shit, again, you could be like, well, it's not really the timeline because there is no one timeline. So,
technically,
I'll play
it. They have sort of rebooted the timeline. So,
like
I love Mortal
Kombat,
Kombat.
Right? I mean, it's been revamped a couple of times. So
they make a big deal of it now. Like, now it's like, oh, this is a rebooted universe. I'm like, wasn't the last game all about the rebooted universe? Like, that was the whole premise. Was like at the end of the game,
cinematic storytelling because they have really good graphics. So now they're making it like it's a big deal. I mean, they did last time too, but I think they're. I have a hunch.
That was the plot twist. Like when you beat the game.
Oh yeah,
that was the revelation was that Cronika's been rebooting it like thousands of times, and this is just like one of the reboots. And now that we're just playing another reboot of like whatever.
Yeah, I wish they'd maybe redone her death animation in a couple of different ways. I was kind of sick of seeing her split her head in half 8 times when I beat it with different people, but that's a nitpick.
Yeah.
So
well, whatever.
Anyway, we'll bring this to a close so that Marko can go and take something for his headache. Guys, this was a lot of fun. Thanks for stopping by and
thanks for having us on.
Yeah, bullshitting for 2.5 hours. So BeyondSynth.com is where you can go and hear Andy and Marko. Oh, Marko, I do have to tell you this because I told this person I would.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember what his name is, though. I was one of the people who was on the most recent Heartbeat Hero as of this recording, so it would be in August. He said that you, well, actually you and Andy, he mentioned both of you. So both of you were, because we were talking about, how'd you get into synthwave? They were talking about that stuff and, what got you into it and why'd you start making music? And they were talking about the two of you and how you were highlighting people. So I think it is worth mentioning that a genre that a lot of people really like, you two are, it sounds hokey maybe and weird, but you guys are like pillars of synthwave at this point. Like you're elder statesmen, to use a really terrible fucking term. But no, I think because Synthetic Sundays and Beyond Synth get mentioned all the time. And that's how I found the music.
I can't believe Synthetic Sunday still does. That's so long ago now. I mean, I still do the odd mixtape, but that's just...
Yeah, but I mean,
something
you
I
did
do on
one
the side that I really like. But
I sent you a message a while ago where like, oh, you just issued a new thing. It's fucking great. So I think you two guys are well regarded in the community, and it is a unique area where people are generally very positive. So I don't know what that's supposed to lead to,
Andy, but thank you.
No, they mentioned both. I mean, both of you are there because Synthetic Sundays has this kind of reputation as like, where a lot of great stuff was played that people, I mean, I never listened to any of this shit before I found Andy's show. I didn't. I knew I liked the old Carpenter stuff and that type of music. I just didn't know it was being made. So that was a complete, it was a complete Google accident that I even found Beyond Synth to begin with. Because I found a couple of fucking garbage shows before I found yours, Andy, and they were really fucking bad.
Andy's really been doing it for a long time now. I mean, what is it, fucking 10 years?
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy.
It is 10 now, yeah.
Exactly 10, right? Yeah, and that's nuts. The longevity is what's crazy for me because, yeah. Anyway, I mean, I did it for fucking 3 years, I think. That was it, and
But you did the thing was like people love Marko, eh? Like he's a he's a likable guy, and I think the length of shows and that Marko would just play so much that it created this really positive thing amongst the synthwave community because really like if you send Marko tracks and he digs them, he'll play them even if it makes his show like 10 hours long, whereas I feel like I don't quite have that like approachability because like I still just play what I like and I only play songs now in like particular episodes, and so even though I still get sent a bunch of stuff, it's like I'm gonna play like 4 songs this episode or something.
Yeah, but
and there's a lot
people, that's what they want. They don't want to think that you're playing it because it's on a it's on a trending list somewhere. They want to know that you're playing it because you like it, and that's I think the important part.
I think the success I had with mine was like I try to include everybody, and that's why it went like too ridiculous. But I'd be like, all right, so Rick Shithouse was a big part of the scene, and he liked what I was doing, so let's have a regular segment every week with Rick. And then he plays like 8 songs, and we talk, and that ended up going on for like an hour and 20 minutes on its own. And then it was like, well, there's so many good albums out this week, I want to interview all these guys, so there's like 4 interviews. And then it's like, I got a segment with my buddy Paul, and we could talk about album of the week, and it just kept adding and adding, and it was a detriment as well, but it was kind of cool because I try to include everybody. It was like, all right, well, Marcus is here all the time. He's always tuning in. I feel like he's a part of the show, so let's see if he can make a segment. Let's see what he can come up with, and we'll add that in. And then, then there was Dallas, and then it got kind of ridiculous, but it was fun, I mean, I think that's why a lot of people did like it, was because I try to include as much as I could, But again, that kind of went a little bit.
Well, I mean, that's how
those episodes are still up, though, right? I mean, people could still
they're all there. Okay. All of them, yep.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just how that's why there's like that burnout, right? It's like when the flame that burns twice as hot burns, was it twice as quick? What's the fucking thing?
The flame that burns twice as bright burns half as long.
Yeah, and you have burned so very, very brightly, Marko. But like, that's the thing, because like for me,
it's about to fucking spike your eyeballs, so be careful before.
That's why that's why I reboot the show every few years, just because that's what keeps it interesting for me, because I have to do that stuff. And that's part of the whole Like that's it. And what I discovered when the power was out, or when my internet was out, and I told Marko this too on the show.
Fuck you, you old bitch.
Yeah, that's what I said to him. I said, the thing was, like, I really, like, it is powered by the people who I do the show with. And so, that's why, like, I felt like I wanted to do something nice because I know Marko was burnt out with this thing, but I knew that he still had, like, the passion for the music, and he still, even if he wasn't, like, as immersed in it as he was still listening to stuff, and so to me, I was just like, okay, well, if I can give him a place where he can come and do this stuff, I'll still fucking produce the show, but it also gives me energy too, because then there's someone to bounce off of, for like the power hours and stuff, which I need. And so that it just sort of worked out, and people like Marko, like, I mean, that's the most comments I get now when, whenever people talk are just like, I love the ones you do with Marko, I'm like,
bull crap you do. I look at the comments.
Dude, no, look, I literally just got one. I was going to read this on the show anyways, but where is it? I just got a fucking Patreon where the dude is like, I love the Marko ones. Here, hold on, I'll read it to you. Tiber83, who just joined the Patreon. Longtime listener, blah, blah, blah. I'm happy to be a Knight of Synth. I love the new format. Power Hour with Marko is fantastic. Sup, Marko, and I love the banter between you two. The best duo since Crockett and Tubbs. See, look at that.
That is pretty nice.
Crock of shit.
Yeah, you hear...
Pretty much. No, that's
it's so
nice.
stupid I have a
guess there is
soundboard.
something.
I'm going to abuse the fuck out of this thing.
I think we did that one recently where there wasn't a single comment. I think the only comment on the whole thing was me saying crikey. And then I was like, fuck, maybe people aren't listening. Or,
well, no, because no one... Okay, so for my show, like, I guess when you were... Also, too, SoundCloud is weird, but when you were doing, like, Synthetic Sundays, around that time, I just felt like there was just way more engagement on SoundCloud anyways. But now I feel like more people listen on, like, Spotify or podcast apps, and there's just no comments. You know what I mean? Like, with with Spotify... I think the only comments now are it's like I'll occasionally get a notification every few weeks where like someone responded to your Q&A. I'm like, what Q&A? And I guess there's some option. There's some option where like every episode just has a "Did you like this?" and people can choose to say that was great, and then I can say I approve that comment. But like I've very little engagement on SoundCloud. Like it's mostly the same people who just say great episode or whatever.
Then.
Because you look at like the old episodes of Synthetics and like there's like so many comments, and now
there is some of them. Yeah.
So
well, I'll just tell you as somebody who's the listener, I never comment on anything really, but
neither do I.
Yeah,
I don't really either much anymore.
Yeah, but the Discord is very active, and I think that's where you can see that people are engaged with it because they wouldn't be coming into the Discord and talk. I mean, they're talking about other stuff, but. The fact that people haven't just... Because I've seen Discords that just drain to nothing, and clearly those people have just checked the fuck out. So...
Yeah, it's nice to have a nice little community. Like, it's there's a few people who are in the Beyond Synth Discord, and like... Yeah, like, the conversation is never about the podcast, really. So it's like... But it's nice. Like, if people feel like it's a nice, comfortable place to be, I mean, I'll fucking delete anything I don't like, which hasn't been a problem lately. But, it's like... it's a cheesy thing to say it's a safe space, but I mean, like, that is what it is meant to be. So, like, I will shut down anyone who has anything dumb to say. Because it's like, hey, man, this place is cool, man. We just talk about movies and games, It's like, it's nice. It's a nice little corner of the internet.
Well, that was a very, very long, convoluted way of saying if anybody who's listening hasn't heard Synthetic Sundays or Beyond Synth, then go listen to it because, I mean, I don't even know how long I've been listening to it now, but I think that the new format is great. I like the old format, but I like the new format. I think that the important part is you should enjoy whatever you're doing. So if you have to retool it to keep interested, then I'd rather it be in a different format and you're still doing it than you just give up because a lot of people do. Like you said, the burnout thing, there's a lot of people who just get fucking sick of what they're doing and stop, and that's worse. I'd rather people shake things up and stay interested than just give up on it because, like I said, you guys have been doing this for a while, and I think the important part is that you actually care about the music and having a good time doing it, and I think that's what makes the scene a lot better than many other ones. So
Hear, Joe.
Yeah. Yay. Positivity, something I'm always fucking known for. Yay. Yeah. So anyway, like I started to say 10, 15 minutes ago, Thanks for coming on. If nobody has listened to Beyond Synth or Synthetic Sundays is on SoundCloud, so you can listen to that. It's timeless because that's the nice part about this music is it doesn't age. And then Beyond Synth is published on a semi-regular basis when it best suits the material that Andy wants to put out. That's the way to say it. It doesn't need a schedule. It just needs quality, and that's what determines when it gets aired. So thank you for listening. Sure. Thanks for being on here, guys. And now I'm going to shut up. Visit OzoneNightmare.com to subscribe to new episodes, browse through our back catalog, or to find links to support the show. Follow @Ozone Nightmare on Twitter for the latest episode postings and other show information. If 280 characters just isn't enough, you can always email us, theozonenightmare@gmail.com. Music for Ozone Late Night is provided by Ogre. Visit ogresounds.bandcamp.com to hear and purchase his fantastic selection of music.